a chat room, virtual costume contest with prizes, and call-in requests. It's Max Inc.'s Halloween Spooktacular, brought to you by Rocker Vodka and Hotel K, with free beer all night long. Wait, this is radio. How do I get the beer?
This is Tony with Quality CBD. We are located on Willie Street across from the co-op. At Quality CBD, we are vertically integrated. From soil to oil and seed to sale, we grow, extract, manufacture, and distribute quality CBD oil. We also have contact-free delivery options at qualitycbd.org. Quality CBD. Legal, local, legit.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 27th. More than 200,000 people in Wisconsin have tested positive for COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. The state passed the marker Monday as the Department of Health Services reported 2,883 new cases and 10 deaths. The death toll now stands at 1,788. USPS is confident they can process all Milwaukee ballots by deadline. Nearly 1 week from Election Day, U.S. Postal Service and Milwaukee Election Commission officials discussed the steps they are taking to ensure all ballots are protected and delivered on time. Even though the deadline is 8 p.m. on November 3rd, USPS said their goal is to have all ballots delivered to the Commission by 1 p.m. on Election Day. Forecast of clear, chilly skies today, high of 40 degrees, low of 27 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, it is Tuesday, and that means it is 1 week until Election Day, my little buddy.
The number of the day, I say simply heaven. The number of the day is 7.
7. I cannot wait. Happy 1 week away from Election Day. The number of the day is 7. Crudy, always a pleasure to join you, man.
Dominic, the headline of the day, as far as I see it, holy crap, or worse, the COVID numbers, the newest COVID numbers out of the state of Wisconsin. Oh my God. 5,262 new positive cases, 64 Wisconsinites dead today. In the last 24 hours.
Crudy,
reported by DHS.
Yeah, DHS.wisconsin.com. DHS.wisconsin.gov, my bad. Crudy, the numbers, 5,262 infections out of a total of 16,528 tests. That's an infection rate of just under 32%. Or as Donald Trump would say, rounding the corner.
Well, was that a rounding error the other day? Joe Sanfilippo told us, what, 8%?
8%.
8%. A little more than that, like 400% more than 8%. So we've got a positive rate in the 30s. And you can't just say, well, more testing, more positives, because when you look at the hospitalization rate, overnight, it's up 220 Wisconsinites. Went to the hospital yesterday for COVID, and 64 of our neighbors, they died. And I don't know how you cover that up with the rolling average. 64 is an awfully big number. That's a one-day number. Wow.
Well, you don't cover it up, and leaders and politicians would, address this head on. Here in the city of Milwaukee, new restrictions on indoor gatherings coming down starting on Thursday. Huge restrictions. I mean, there are some government officials who believe that it is the government's role through, our electoral process to elect our representatives to act to try and save people. But the Republicans continue to say, we're rounding the curve there's really nothing more the government can do. Good luck, everybody. And vote for me, Republicans? That's a hell of a closing argument.
Great news. Donald Trump in the great state of Wisconsin today, bringing death and disease, spreading it in his wake. He's in West Salem. We talked ourselves out. You were never going to allow yourself to be talked in, Dom. But I know you talked to us, the plural, the royal devil's advocates, out of going to the COVIDiot rally in West Salem today, where Donald Trump is. He's bringing his show on the road to Wisconsin, third time in 10 days. And these newest numbers, oh, man, we are going up exponentially. We're taking off like a little rocket, man.
This is literally the worst numbers the state has ever seen for COVID-19 on the very same day that President Trump will be near La Crosse, Wisconsin, our old stomping grounds, and once again lying to his audience, putting his audience in danger, telling them we're rounding the corner. How do you explain an additional 64 deaths, a 32% infection rate, and 5,200 new infections, the highest it's ever been on any of those stats, as far as I can tell? How do you explain that as rounding the corner?
Too much winning?
So much winning. I'm tired of winning. I cannot wait to no longer be winning like this in 7 more days.
Dominic, the ringleader of the Trump death cult here in the state of Wisconsin, Scott Fitzgerald. He's the conductor of the Trump train, right?
He certainly is. Trump, Pence. I remember that.
Well, there has been some news, and we've got his opponent on our big show today in the 3 o'clock hour, Tom Pelzowitz. He is the Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 5th congressional district. And Scott Fitzgerald, through his inaction, his gross negligence, is seeking a promotion onto Congress. And, there was a little notice that perhaps some of Fitzy's staff and perhaps many of the Republican staffers, they've also been infected with COVID. But Fitzgerald wants me to reassure you via Twitter.
Please, great.
Just to reassure everyone, according to Scott Fitzgerald's verified official Twitter account, just to reassure everyone, I have never displayed symptoms of COVID-19, have never tested positive, and was not in quarantine in recent weeks. I feel great and continue to work hard for my constituents every day, despite the fact I really haven't done anything for you in over 6 months.
Right. I'd like to know exactly what you are doing. What work are you doing? How are you working?
Well, he's running for the 5th congressional and a promotion to Congress.
Shouldn't there, if you're going to work for your constituents, shouldn't that entail whatever, is top of the list right now? And presumably for lots and lots of people who are concerned about a spreading pandemic, who believe
Tony Evers bashing.
Oh, that's right. That's very important.
What would you say you do here?
Well, he's in charge of the Trump death cult, Tom. Here in the
Mary
state of Wisconsin.
Mary Spikuza, Molly Beck, Patrick Marley at the Journal Sentinel from today. Staffers and Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald's Capitol office were quarantined in recent weeks after one of Fitzgerald's aides tested positive for COVID-19, 6 sources told the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Now, it's almost like
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
It's almost like they don't want to talk about it. Like they don't want to let people know. It's almost like they're trying to keep it a secret, kind of like how Pence's staff tried to keep it a secret.
Pence coming to Mo City tomorrow, Don.
Oh my God.
Campaigning for the people. They're essential workers. They're out there campaigning on behalf of themselves. And of course, the death cult leader, Donald Trump, who's in the great state of Wisconsin. spreading widely the message and the COVID.
He is spreading the COVID, no doubt.
And Dominic, also, we got our good friend, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, is going to make the happy hour a lot happier. You got to stick around all the way through the end. Jim Santelle helping us take you home today. Jim Santelle joins us for the entirety of the 4 o'clock happy hour.
Oh, nice.
Fancy, you've got a contribution. Didn't mean to not say hi to you as well.
You gotta introduce the guests. There's a banner going around about warning about the super spreading from Trump. Someone is flying a banner behind a plane that says "Warning: Trump super spreader event in Wisconsin." It's pretty awesome.
I don't know if I made the point clearly last week, but Trump apparently, right outside the rally, I don't think it was a campaign buy, but somebody bought the billboard in Waukesha pointing at the Trump event saying super spreader event going on right there.
Well, and we've had doctors in the state of Wisconsin write an open letter to this administration begging them not to come. We see the highest infection rate, death rate in the state of Wisconsin right now. And as the USA Today reports, as Donald Trump jetted across the country holding campaign rallies during the past 2 months, he didn't just defy state orders and federal health guidelines. He left a trail of coronavirus outbreaks in his wake. The president has participated in nearly 36 rallies since mid-August, all but 2 at airport hangars. A USA Today analysis shows COVID-19 cases grew at a faster rate than before after at least 5 of those rallies in the following counties. Crudy, you're going to love this one: Blue Earth, Minnesota; Lackawanna, Pennsylvania; Marathon, Wisconsin; Dauphin, Pennsylvania; and Beltrami, Minnesota. Yeah, it is literally a COVID-spreading, COVIDiot party. That's what they're doing. And for what? So go vote for me, vote for Donald Trump, because one of the great successes of this administration is rounding the corner on the COVID. Just because you tweet out in all caps doesn't make it go away. Just because you say it doesn't make it go away. Just because the media is reporting the highest infection rates, like here in the state of Wisconsin, doesn't mean it's fake.
Dominic, we went from 3,000 to about 5,000 in what, like a week?
Yeah.
I mean, this is truly exponential growth. If every third person getting tested has COVID, and certainly, if you know someone or you've been exposed, you should go get tested.
I got tested today.
I know you did. It makes me feel very good that you're in Milwaukee and I'm here in Madison. But ultimately, Dom, the testing numbers, certainly that's a bigger number, but the positivity rate.
Right.
30%, even if you say, well, sometimes there's some lag in the little counties, got to get caught up, and then it seems like a bigger number all at once. Yeah, explain that to the dead Wisconsinites. I wonder how many of them attended a Trump rally in Moseley or maybe Waukesha. Or maybe another one in Waukesha.
Or how many of them had their loved ones or their family or their neighbor or someone who happened to cross paths with them waiting in line at the grocery store attended a COVIDiot rally. It's not just about yourselves, you COVIDiots. It's about other people. I know it's very difficult to get outside of yourself and, have some empathy towards the plight of your fellow citizens. But come on, 64 dead today.
Well, they feel bad for other people, like their snowflake leader. He's such a victim.
Oh,
the mainstream media is so mean to this guy,
yeah.
Asking him tough questions.
Oh.
As Barack Obama said, he is jealous of the coverage that COVID is getting. Folks, we're the devil's advocates. Come back with us. It's a Tuesday, 1 week until Election Day.
The number of the day, I say simply heaven. The number of the day is 7.
What's in the box?
It's bad. It's so bad. There's blood everywhere.
The manufactured outrage by the Democrats right now is hilarious.
Trump.
Pants.
Do you know the Devil's Advocate started as a podcast, just two buddies talking into an iPad because we thought we had something to say? Do you have something to say? Let Devil Radio guide you. Launch your own broadcast quality podcast. Utilize our studios and staff, our hosting platform, and we will even promote your podcast on Devil Radio. Monthly packages start at just $295. Devil Radio's podcast platform to launch immediately after the election. Call today to learn more. 608-819-TALK.
At Chad's Design Build, we have always been uncompromising about creating a safe and healthy home during your renovation and after. As we pause to allow our community to confront this crisis, we remain vigilant and determined to find a safe way to resume the essential work of maintaining and improving homes in our community. With love for each other, we'll find a way to carry on. We wish you all good health, strength, and wisdom. On behalf of the entire team at Chad's Design Build, this is Chad Spade.
When it comes to computers, Madison Computer Works has been the leader in computer help, service, and support for more than 35 years. Our friendly techs have the expertise to help you choose the right computer for your needs. We make it easy to get a new computer by moving your data, reinstalling programs, and setting up your printers and email for you. Our competitive pricing and awesome tech support make moving to a new computer painless and affordable. Whether servicing your old computer or buying a new one, we'll help you do it right. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, Madison. This is Santita Jackson of The Santita Jackson Show. Every Tuesday morning at 7:30, please join Madison's own John Nichols of The Nation magazine as he unpacks the politics of the day right here on The Santita Jackson Show.
Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
The big and tall of political talk. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. You can join us anytime at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I told you so ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court last night as well. The Democrats and others had asked the courts, the federal courts, to make a ruling. Should absentee ballots that are received by clerks, election clerks, after 8 p.m. on election day, should they be counted? And in April, the answer apparently was yes. But this time around, and I didn't see the wisdom of this lawsuit. I thought, maybe this would just confuse the electorate further. And eventually, I predicted this would go on appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then it would get slapped down. And that was before RBG died. But it was still a ruling that was 5-3. It would have been a 5-4 with RBG. It still would have been the same ruling. And unfortunately, the ruling is your ballot turns into a Cinderella-like pumpkin at midnight on election night. If it's not in the clerk's hand on election day, your vote will not count in the state of Wisconsin. And that's pretty much the final word on it.
Patrick Marley reporting in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, quoting Justice Neil Gorsuch. Here's what the conservative said, quote, "The Constitution provides that state legislatures, not federal judges, not state judges, not state governors, nor not other state officials, bear primary responsibility for setting election rules." In dissent, Justice Elena Kagan gave that notion short shrifts, noting Wisconsin's Republican-run legislature hasn't met since April. Extending the deadline for absentee ballots should have been allowed, she wrote in her quote. On the scales of both constitutional justice and electoral accuracy, protecting the right to vote in a health crisis outweighs conforming to a deadline created in safer days. And ultimately, Crudy, you're right. I mean, does this cause any confusion? I mean, I hope not. People go out, vote early, make sure it counts, make sure you get it in. But if nothing else, this lays the responsibility for this problem squarely at the feet of the Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin. I mean, since April, they're not doing a thing. We have this rising pandemic. This is worse than when Speaker Robin Vos went out in full dress gear saying how incredibly safe it was to go outside.
Well, relative to the current numbers of COVID, Dom, it was incredibly safe in April.
Right. Oh, the good old days.
And now
we're incredibly safe to go out.
Right.
And now we're in the midst of a spiraling out of control pandemic.
We have seen a small increase in deaths, which is a good thing.
Yeah, 64 overnight, 64 dead Wisconsinites in 24 hours. But it's unfortunate, Dominic. I wasn't rooting against the Democratic Party. I wasn't rooting against the litigants seeking to include all votes, include as many votes as absolutely feasible, because it would be through no fault of the voter. The voter followed the law. They send back their absentee ballot in a reasonable, timely fashion. But here's the problem. The U.S. mail ain't as efficient as it used to be. The Republicans, they've been making sure that's the case. The Trump administration and his guy over
the Joy.
I always want to call him like Foot Joy, but yeah.
Hey, whatever you're into, man.
that guy has been slowing down the mail. Philip Bump piece at the Washington Post. I'm not reading from it, but I just read it about an hour ago. 10 days, the average it takes to deliver first-class mail in the state of Wisconsin. I used to get mail a hell of a lot quicker than 10 days, and that's just the average. In some cases, it's significantly slower. How many days are we until Election Day, Dom?
7.
So if you try to mail your absentee ballot back today in the state of Wisconsin, you could be fully compliant with the law. And according to Brett Kavanaugh's pumpkin at midnight theory, your ballot would be thrown out. You would be disenfranchised. Your vote would not matter. So there is fault to be had.
Justice Kagan notes that as well. Once again, quoting the justice, today mail ballots often travel at a snail's pace, and the elderly and ill put themselves in peril if they go to the polls. So citizens, thousands and thousands of them who have followed all the state's rules, still cannot cast a successful vote, just like the Republicans want it.
That's really all they've got left. We talked to Dale Schultz yesterday. I mean, Dale Schultz continuously has given us candor through the years, but effectively says voter suppression efforts that's all his team's got left. His former team. I think even Dale's moved off the Republican team, or maybe it moved away from him.
64 dead in the last 24 hours. I mean, they can keep going on that. How many more will be dead between now and Election Day? I mean, that's the seemingly the strategy of the Republicans. It's so bad out right now with the infections. Certainly those who are sick or elderly would be justified in not wanting to put themselves in peril by going outside to a poll. And it might be safe for people, whatever. The case is that now if you put that ballot in the mail, based on the average returns of mail being delivered in the state of Wisconsin at 10 days, you have a very good chance, my numbers would say about 30% perhaps, that it will not be delivered in time. Your vote will not cast. The Republicans don't give a damn, nor do the Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, Dominic, according to overnight COVID testing in the state of Wisconsin, only about 30% of our neighbors are currently testing positive each and every day for COVID-19. 64 Wisconsinites dead. This is way, way worse than it was in April when people feared going to the polls in the midst of a pandemic. And I would remind you, most of our Democratic friends have taken our advice. They've early voted. And if they haven't mailed their ballot yet, don't do it. Drive it down to the clerk's office, hand it off. You don't have to stick it in the mail. But for all you Republicans holding out for Election Day, and I will vote on Election Day, and I'll see how many of our COVID-idiot friends are there at the polls, yucking it up, perhaps coughing a little bit because they went to a Trump rally over the week. Come back with us. Your phone call's next, 844-967-2789.
Go through court for years, At the end, there'll be who knows what happens.
I'm holding you in contempt of court.
The courts agree with us, too. What's going on in this country?
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
America has reached a tipping point. We're being torn apart at the seams, right when we need to be more united than ever as Americans. Joe Biden is the only candidate who can bring us together to get our country moving again.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. While I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. That's the job of a president, to represent all of us, not just our base or our party.
Because only when we come together can we rebuild our economy the right way. For working people, Biden's plan? No tax increases if you make under $400,000. Create 18 million new jobs. Higher wages. With ideas both parties can support.
This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for
Donahue with an AP News Minute. 3 states are on President Trump's campaign schedule. First stop, Lansing, Michigan.
7 days from now, we're going to win the great state of Michigan. And we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
The president will be in Wisconsin and Nebraska later. Joe Biden is campaigning in Georgia.
I believe America, an America of hope, not fear. Unity, not division. Love, not hate.
Biden offered a hopeful call for healing in the face of what he called the lasting wound the coronavirus pandemic has left on the country. Elections officials in Iowa are worried about the state's rising number of coronavirus cases, saying any illnesses or absences among key workers and volunteers in the state could hinder their service through Election Day. I'm Ed Donahue.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contact us to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
Walgreens has always been there to help make your healthcare easier. From making sure you have the prescriptions you need to answering any questions you have about them. Now, the question is whether you have the right Medicare plan. And we're here to help make that easier too. Walgreens can save you money and peace of mind with copays as low as $0. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare today to see how. Walgreens. We make Medicare easy. $0 copay on Tier 1 generic drugs when enrolled in a plan with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 27th. UW-Madison announces another round of furloughs for most employees in 2021. Roughly 16,000 university employees will take between 3 and 6 unpaid days off between January 1st and June 30th, reducing their pay between 2.5 and 4.6%. Chancellor Blanc and vice chancellors will take a 15% salary cut over those same 6 months. Cyber exposed banking information. The Department of Workforce Development says Wisconsin was one of several states to detect unauthorized intrusions of state unemployment insurance data. A spokesperson says the department believes the cyber attack or attacks were able to access 116 active unemployment accounts. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Ass, grass, or cash, nobody rides for free. Tom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. 7 days in a wake-up. Election night, 7 days from today. Dominic, we'll be staying up long past midnight that night. I think they will call the national election for Joe Biden well before midnight. I think we'll be partying on the airwaves.
Oh, man, I hope so.
And then, maybe a little after party as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure we'll be partying on the airways no matter what, but I'm hoping for a Biden wave.
Well, it won't be much of a party if Trump starts winning. You remember the party 4 years ago.
We still partied, man.
It turned very dark very early in the evening. And the headline today out of the great state of Wisconsin, a holy crap number. Going to get to the phones in just a minute, 844-967-2789. But Dom, you'll be encouraged to know the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy is declaring mission accomplished and saying that President Donald Trump ended the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, good.
Thank goodness it's over.
I was starting to get worried with the 64 deaths and the 5,262 infection and a 32% infection rate. I was, thankfully, the president and his science office has decreed it to be over.
That's a rounding the corner error, Dom.
Yeah.
The United States hit record numbers of coronavirus infections this weekend with 83,000 in one day. And there are multiple cities being crushed under the weight of 42,000 hospitalizations. We're up 220 hospitalizations in the state of Wisconsin in 24 hours as well. But on Tuesday, the White House Science Office put ending the COVID-19 pandemic at the top of the list of Donald Trump accomplishments from his first term. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. They were already selling the commemorative coins.
Oh, come on.
844-967-2789. Thank goodness we can all go back out.
All right, let's.
I give myself awards all the time.
Profane Ronnie, welcome back to the show. I could have used you at the beginning. The only words FCC permissible I can think to say is holy crap, sister.
Hey, Ronnie.
I know. Every day it just makes your head spin more and more. I mean, like, I had something to say, and then you just said that it's over.
Mission accomplished.
Where do they? Yeah. Do they just pull this out of their backsides and say ta-da? Yeah, they're just crazy. They're crazy. But that's not why I called. You know why I called.
You called because you're my favorite profane male lady.
I'm probably your only profane male lady. So this study where the guy said on average it takes 10 days to mail a letter in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, so I don't know what this study is, but I'm calling baloney on that. Yes, maybe there are things that get delayed for whatever reason. It's stuck in a machine or left behind in a piece of equipment or something. I'm looking at postmarks since you've said it, and things are 3 or 4 days. So, I mean, I don't want everybody to freak out. But that being said, I have an absentee ballot, and this morning on my way to work, I went to Muskego City Hall and I dropped it in their Dropbox because just in case. But the post office has been separating the ballots from the regular mail. When we carriers come back in the afternoon with all the mail that we've picked up, the ballots stick out. They're big.
So are you prioritizing, or is the post office, making that the voting ballots a priority of mail?
Yeah, what we do instead of, because like it's easy to pull out those ballots, and so we separate them from the regular mail. So the regular mail all goes down to Milwaukee. The rest of it gets either trade up or tubbed up, and we just take it straight to City Hall, or they actually come and pick it up from us. So I mean, it's not even going to Milwaukee. So.
Well, I guess that's encouraging. There is a headline at the Washington Post, and my source on that was a Philip Bump piece addressing the Kavanaugh ruling, the Supreme Court ruling overnight that absentee ballots that come in after Election Day in the state of Wisconsin will not count. Another headline I saw at the Washington Post is I was seeking that one amid USPS delays. Election experts and campaigns weigh in. Don't mail your ballot, Ronnie. That's what the headline at the Washington Post is right now. Don't mail it.
At this point, I would agree with that because we are getting close, but people are still going to mail it, and the post office is taking every precaution to make sure that it's not an issue. one thing that I thought was funny, where the post office met with election officials, and they said they want to have all the ballots there by 1 p.m. Well, I don't know how you're going to do that, because your carriers are still out on the street until 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. And we are picking up outgoing mail as we deliver mail to people.
Right.
So, I mean, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, okay, they didn't have any carriers in on this conversation.
They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, Ronnie.
Right.
Ronnie, I have one quick question for you. Why is it all my bills always arrive in a timely fashion, but the checks made out to me seemingly take 10 days or longer?
Well, I would, anytime a customer asks me that, I say, because I've already taken your damn check. Thank you very much.
At least I would know it went to a good cause, Ronnie.
That's right, Ronnie.
Hey, you gotcha. Oh, speaking of a good cause, can I throw something else in?
Sure.
My husband and I were doing our will and estate planning, and you are in my will. So I just want you to know, WRRD is going to get a nice little plop full of mail, full of money. Nothing that's going to like save the world, but you are in my will.
Well, can I encourage you to make it out to WTTN?
Yeah, that's actually what it is.
Actually, the devil's advocate, Dominic Salvia would be great.
Or
Cash
just
also works.
Down at the Roman coin, just say Dominic Cruz bar tab for the week. It might just cover it, Ronnie.
It might.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sister, that's very generous of you to think of us, but we don't expect to cash that in. I expect to die way sooner than you, sister.
Thank you for the call, Ronnie. Thank you for the donation eventually. Hopefully, when you pass, your last check will bounce.
That's my goal as well. 844-967-2789. Mark from the SAC. Welcome back. What do you got for us, Mark?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, yeah, well, God bless my sister Ronnie there. That in the days, one of the tasks I did at the DNR was mailing something out, and there's days that it would go out and get there the next day. I mean, overnight.
Yeah.
Those are the bills.
Nonsense.
The bills come overnight. It's
that.
I think if they sent the checks in there, they throw it in the bag for an extra couple days.
Yeah, well, this is bills going out to the county governments. I mean, from one government to another government. But I mean, still, it was they reached there overnight. Overnight. Let's stress that again. Overnight, that things would get there from Madison to, Bayfield, Wisconsin. I mean, that it's just ridiculous that we would have to have this discussion that they've slowed down the mail to this point. That we shut down the local post office because you don't get a local postmark anymore. I mean that it's
usually it's Milwaukee now.
It's Milwaukee. I mean that when I get stuff from my family up north, it's going through St. Paul. I mean that it just is ridiculous. I mean you don't get the South Range post office, the little local podunk post office anymore. That it's just sad that they've done this to our postal service.
It's like they're trying to deliver our mail on Frontier Airlines.
And I don't understand the point behind it.
Oh, come on. Of course you do, Mark.
I do.
Yeah, right.
I
mean,
do.
it's very obvious. They're messing, as Dale Schultz has said, with the machinations, man. I mean, their ideas, their strategy to beat COVID, whatever they claim their platform.
They already beat COVID.
Oh, that's right. It's all successful. But if you can slow down the mail for a day or two, I mean, that has a statistical impact.
And now we have a Supreme Court that is apparently stacked with people that don't believe in the general welfare clause in the Constitution, even though it's in there several times. One of government's purposes is to promote the general welfare, and you'd think that one of the purposes of the general welfare at this point in time is promoting the health of the citizenry of our country, because that's been something governments have dealt with, since antiquity. I mean, that we read about the Roman accounts of them trying to deal with, outbreaks of plague in various places where they didn't have the tools to do that we have today, but they knew it was government's responsibility to deal with it and to deal with the general welfare of the citizenry, is which our Constitution, it's in the preamble of the Constitution.
Yeah, what a quaint notion.
I mean, that and Missy Handmaid right now that it's ridiculous. I mean, that
well, Mark,
the purpose of government is to deal with the general welfare. And if you guys don't believe in that, you got no business serving in the government.
Well, and they don't, Mark. I mean, that's the whole conservative philosophy, and why it is so difficult for a Republican to want to react in what many would consider an appropriate and public health specific standpoint, is because they don't believe that government is functional in that way.
Well, it's not when they run it. And I'm not sure that we know exactly what Coney Barrett thinks about anything. She didn't really answer any questions during her Senate confirmation hearings.
There's so many, controversial topics to discuss that she couldn't possibly, get into any of those. But we'll find out soon enough.
Dominic, I would have more notes for a pop quiz. I got more scribbles for this show than she took into a Senate confirmation hearing.
Well, that's because she's way more intelligent than you are, Michael.
Well, that and she didn't intend to answer any of the questions.
Oh, minor details.
Minor details.
Minor.
Now, we've got our fine legal expert, not our only one, but perhaps one of our favorite, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, going to join us in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to talk a lot about Coney Barrett and perhaps even what happens if we have a disputed election. Bush v. Gore take to Trump v. Biden, only this time it's all about Wisconsin.
I look forward to speaking with Jim. It's been too long.
That nightmare scenario cannot happen again, Tom. Will not happen again. I think Joe Biden's already won the state of Wisconsin. I mean, no doubt, you still got to drop off your ballots and you need to vote. But I think Joe Biden's already banking on his victory. And right now it's about the margin of error. And I hope we're well outside the margin of error.
I would just say, if you have thousands and thousands of people attending these COVIDiot rallies, like what's going to happen here once again in the state of Wisconsin when Trump rolls through town, if you got like a 4 or 5 gestation days before the true sickness come out, there very possible could be thousands of Republicans who just will be too sick to go up and vote in person. It will be too late for them to cast an absentee ballot.
That would be interesting. If you have COVID-19 on election day, do you go vote? Like if you are COVID positive, if you're a Trumpster, do you show up at the polls with your COVID, spread it out to all the nice, election people?
Who are typically elderly. Yes.
I hear there are all kinds of young people volunteering at the polls this year. There is some nominal fee that they get paid. But my understanding, a local kid from Madison, a high school student, signed up over 300 teenage volunteers to be poll workers in this elective cycle. Because A, hard to get a summer job in the midst of a pandemic or even a fall job. And B, the kids, I understand, Tom, they don't get as sick with the COVID. At least that's what the president keeps telling us. But he also said, mission accomplished.
It's all over, folks. Don't worry about it.
Pandemic in your rear view mirror may be closer than it appears. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more of you on the phones as well. Dial them up, 844-967-2789. Tom Pelzowitz joining us at 306.
I will do anything it takes to win.
I give myself awards all the time. And then I announce I've just received an award, and there's nothing deceptive about it because I actually did, but I gave it to myself.
Good heavens. Are you still trying to win?
Please, it's too much winning.
The winners get to do what they want.
Lando Commando at Knucklehead CBD and Vape, State Street's one-stop shop for all your CBD and vape needs. Check out the website, knuckleheadcbd.com, for an in-store menu and growing online catalog. Shop is open 10 a.m., 8 p.m. every day. New delivery options available. Knucklehead CBD and Vape, safest place in Madison, high above State Street.
Hola, Wisconsin. Voces de la Frontera Action has spent decades organizing to advance racial and immigrant justice, workers' rights, and education for all. Many of you have joined our historic Day Without Latinx and Immigrants mass strikes to beat back corporate policies that try to divide our communities and separate families. As a battleground state in 2020, your vote matters. We must unite to vote out Trump and his far-right administration that promote racism and violence while hoarding the wealth for the rich. The pandemic has heightened the urgency for access to healthcare, investment, and COVID-19 protections for workers, small business owners, and schools. That is why we must vote for Joe Biden. Join Voces de la Frontera Action by visiting vdlfa.org or calling 414-643-1620. And don't forget, early voting starts October 20th. Onwards to victory. Sí se puede.
Paid for by Voces de la Frontera Action, independent of any candidate or candidate committee.
Dave, I heard you had a solution to Russia meddling in our elections.
Oh, yeah, Crudy. Community PC is Putin's worst nightmare. Voting machines are just computers, and Community PC's Tech Protect plan keeps computers safe and secure.
How can I learn more and protect my computer?
Well, to keep your computer up to date and secure, go to commpc.com to learn more and sign up for Tech Protect today. That's commpc.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com. Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk radio from Fitchburg to DeForest, always streaming at DARNWI.com.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines open. Join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I have an opinion piece, Alexandria Petrie over at the Washington Post. I'm going to start reading right in the body of the piece. Do you know what happens to ballots after midnight? Justice Elena Kagan is wrong in her dissent from the Supreme Court's recent ruling that Wisconsin cannot extend its deadline for counting absentee ballots past Election Day. She suggests it would be a mistake to stop counting ballots arbitrarily at midnight. Arbitrarily? The very idea. It's as if she thought the specific contours of Election Day were arbitrary and that the election actually ended when all the ballots were counted.
Well, what's she thinking?
Does she not know that these Republican state legislatures are trying to spare us? Before midnight during Election Day, the ballot is ordinary, paper with a few choice areas filled in with black ink. But after midnight, I cannot continue. There are some things we may imagine we want to see, but from which we must be protected. It will come as no surprise that many election results fall somehow into that category. We may think we want to know who got the most votes and that we wish to stop counting the ballots only when they have all arrived and not precisely upon the stroke of midnight at the conclusion of the election day. We might think there's nothing fundamentally different about a ballot before and after that moment. We think wrongly. Oh, sweet summer children. Justice Brett Kavanaugh is right to say we must avoid the chaos and suspicions of impropriety that would arise if ballots cast in an election were to affect the outcome of the election. I'm sorry, let me read that again. I almost had it, but now I don't. Justice Kavanaugh is right to say we must avoid the chaos and suspicions of impropriety that that can ensue if thousands of absentee ballots flow in after the election day and potentially flip the results of an election. Flip? I'm sorry, flip from what? No, hang on. I am sure it will make sense. I must have something is the matter with me. I'll read it again. I have it. He is alluding doubtless to the chaos and impropriety of the midnight ballots now.
Crudy, he knows what happens to the ballots once the clock strikes. Chaos and impropriety are but the tamest words for it. Why do you think that the ballots must be encased in protective sheets? Why, if not to protect us from the hideous spectacle of what they would be naked? Have you ever seen a naked ballot after midnight dancing on a clearing, its dots pulsating and rippling all over the page, frolicking with diabolical delight? Pray you never shall. I know of a man once in Florida who counted ballots after midnight, marked the end of the election. It was more than his fragile brain could take. Counting became a mania with him. He counted and counted them. He saw strange things such as I cannot even begin to describe. Hanging chads, fat chads, pregnant chads, dimpled chads. They followed him wherever he went. He began to be convinced that if he could only keep counting them, there would be more of them for Al Gore than there were for George W. Bush, and the election would be decided according to the will of the people. The Supreme Court had to intervene to stop him, poor man, or he would have gone on counting and recounting. Why, he might still be counting now. They are only trying to protect us. There are things we think we want of which we cannot imagine the full horror.
The horror.
The things like election results or waiting until after the election to appoint a new Supreme Court justice, things of that nature. We think we want them, but we do not know. Thank heavens the court is there to protect us from ourselves.
Alexandria Petrie, sort of a snarky take on the Kavanaugh. Something about midnight. It cannot come in after midnight.
We're gonna let it all hang out.
With my friends.
Yeah, after midnight, you get a little too drunk. Wisco Paul, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon, Devils. There's so many bad things going on right now. It's hard to even pick one to talk about. I mean, the pandemic is completely out of control. You just put a Supreme Court justice in that's probably going to take the Affordable Care Act away. Anybody that has the coronavirus is probably going to be considered pre-existing conditions. Where do you go with this whole thing? I mean, I could sit here or talk to you guys and call the GOP names, but what I will say is that from Trump on down, it's their fault. This thing is just spiraled out of control. There's no leadership. It's like their healthcare plan. They don't have a plan. And it'll be interesting to see what Jim says in your next hour about what's going to go on legally here. But
you misconstrue real leadership, Paul. Real leadership is crapping on Tony Evers during a pandemic. That's how you lead.
I don't even know where to go with this stuff anymore.
Well, you go to the private attorneys with the taxpayer dollars and you sue until you get the outcome you want, Paul.
Thanks for the call, man. Let's get one more in. 844-967-2789. Our pal Tom Palzowitz, candidate for Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District, joining us at the top of the hour. Jeff from Madison, you are next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, guys. Question for you. If I'm in line before 8 o'clock, I can still vote, right?
Yes.
What happens if I can't get my vote in before midnight?
Well, Brett Kavanaugh is going to have a big issue with you, young man. I'm not clear. The Kavanaugh logic, a little twisted. Can't wait to get former U.S. Attorney James Santelle around in the 4 o'clock hour to hopefully give you a better explanation. But my understanding, policy has always been if you're in the line when the polls close, effectively, they walk out to the end of the line and they say no one after you, perhaps, Jeff, at 7:59, and at 8 o'clock, the polls are closed, accepting the people that were in line prior to the closing of the polls. But hell, man, if you mailed back your ballot a day too late, well, your vote is disenfranchised.
No, I want to be clear.
If you
put your ballot in the mail in the proper legal time, and the mail takes a couple of days to get there and arrives afterwards,
yeah, you're still
your SOL.
Yeah, same net outcome. I'm going to vote in person, Jeff. What about you?
I already voted and it's registered, so I'm good. And I do have to disagree with Paul. They do have a plan. If you get sick, die quickly.
Yeah, that's been their plan for more than a decade. I remember Alan Grayson on the floor of the U.S. Congress saying, that is effectively the Republican healthcare
I
plan.
remember being a little taken aback by that. And then over the years, I've come to realize, yeah, that's the case. In the absence of any other plan, That is exactly the plan.
Come on, Leslie Stahl. McEnany gave you the plan. The big binder.
Binder
There's
full
a
plan.
Plan in there somewhere.
Just look at it. Look how big it is. It's very important.
Come back with us. A fine guest, Tom Pelzwitz, Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 5th CD. Hope he's been working. We'll check. We'll be right back.
I drank beer with my friends.
You like movies about gladiators?
Sometimes I had too many beers.
It's like I took the wrong week to quit drinking.
Wash your hands, avoid sick people, and touching your face. There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com. Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at Talk 92.7 FM.
News. I'm Ed Donahue. With 1 week to go before Election Day.
Hello, Lansing. Hello, Michigan.
President Trump is stopping in 3 states today. Wisconsin and Nebraska are the other 2.
7 days from now, we're going to win the great state of Michigan. And we're going to win 4 more years in the White House.
Joe Biden is making a call for healing. His final message. The AP's Sagar Magani has the story.
Biden said the nation's become increasingly divided and ugly under President Trump, and some wonder if it's past the point of no return.
As the heart of this nation turned to stone,
He doesn't think so.
I run to unite this nation and to heal this nation.
Biden spoke in Warm Springs, Georgia, noting that's where FDR went to recover from polio and guide the nation through crises. He says it's a reminder the country can be healed.
We can restore our soul and save our country.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
Tafara Williams, a black woman, says police did nothing last week after shooting her and her boyfriend in Waukegan, Illinois.
They laid Marcellus on the ground and covered him up with a blanket while he was still breathing. I know he was still alive.
Williams spoke to reporters during a Zoom call from her hospital bed. Her boyfriend died. 91 people in all have been arrested in Philadelphia in protest over the shooting death of a black man by police in Philadelphia. Gulf Coast residents are bracing themselves for yet another hurricane. Zeta emerged from Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula as a tropical storm and could strengthen to a hurricane when it reaches land, possibly tomorrow night. A senior Trump administration official says Medicare will cover the yet-to-be-approved coronavirus vaccine free for older people under a policy change expected to be announced soon. This is AP News.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contactless to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
Walgreens has always been there to help make your healthcare easier. From making sure you have the prescriptions you need to answering any questions you have about them. Now, the question is whether you have the right Medicare plan. And we're here to help make that easier too. Walgreens can save you money and peace of mind with copays as low as $0. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare today to see how. Walgreens. We make Medicare easy. $0 copay on Tier 1 generic drugs when enrolled in a plan with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy.
The challenges we face today are too big to tackle just as Democrats or just as Republicans. We have to do it as Americans. This virus, this recession, it's hitting working people hardest. And Joe Biden knows that this recovery must be about them, not the super rich.
I'll be laser focused on working families. That's why I've laid out a comprehensive agenda, not just to rebuild our communities, but to make bold investments so we can build back and build back better. We're going to invest in creating millions of good paying jobs, building roads, bridges, highways, ports, airports.
A mission both parties can agree with, because it's time we come together as Americans.
But while I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
I'm Congressman Mark Bocan. On November 3rd, I'm asking for your vote. A vote for good-paying jobs here in Wisconsin and across the country. A vote in support of small business and a stronger economy in times of COVID-19. On November 3rd, please make a plan to vote safely and help others do the same. I'm Mark Bocan. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, and I approve this message. Paid for by Mark Bocan for Congress, Sandy Pope, Treasurer.
This is Tony with Quality CBD. We are located on Willie Street across from the co-op. At Quality CBD, we are vertically integrated. From soil to oil and seed to sale, we grow, extract, manufacture, and distribute quality CBD oil. We also have contact-free delivery options at qualitycbd.org. Quality CBD. Legal, local, legit.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 27th. U.S. Supreme Court declines to change Wisconsin's voting rules, keeps Election Day deadline for mail-in ballots. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld Wisconsin's voting laws Monday, rejecting an effort to require the counting of absentee ballots that are sent back to election officials on or just before Election Day. School districts are running out of teachers in the pandemic. No statewide criteria for opening or closing schools is being followed. Health departments in each community are establishing their own standards. School districts, in turn, consider health departments' guidelines only as a suggestion. Forecast of clear, chilly skies today, high of 40 degrees, low of 27 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, just 7 days till an election. And we welcome back a fine guest. He is a candidate for Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. He's Tom Palzowitz, the Democrat. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, Tom, it shouldn't have to be asked, but I've got to ask you in light of the statement made by Scott Fitzgerald on Twitter today. Sir, are you COVID positive or have you displayed any COVID-19 symptoms?
I am not COVID positive, nor have displayed any symptoms. No, we have worked really hard to make sure that not only my wife and I are keeping safe, but making sure we're doing a safe campaign. And it's something that really bothers me because I watch as these Republicans, not only the president, but everyone else who's out there campaigning are just basically not even following the simple rules that we've laid down of wearing masks and social distancing. And I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Well, Tom, it's sort of a holy crap day in Wisconsin in that 5,262 new COVID-19 positive cases reported by DHS. We got 64 additional Wisconsinites dead, and we've got 220 additional Wisconsinites moved into hospitalization due to COVID-19. And since Scott Fitzgerald is not sick with the COVID-19, is not in quarantine, one must wonder why he hasn't called the Senate into session and done a damn thing in over 6 months, Tom.
They're just incapable of doing anything at this point. Their ideology is such where they do not think government can be a solution to anything. I think we've seen it. We've heard it from other people. We've heard it from Alberta Darling and others that Joe Sanfilippo, that they just can't do anything. And it is shocking. It is appalling. It's upsetting. I mean, with the number of cases we have right now in Wisconsin exploding and the sheer number of deaths, I can't believe it. And I am so looking forward to this election and making sure that we have a chance to hold these people accountable and make some changes, especially at the top of the ticket. And I cannot wait to get to Washington to start doing something about this.
Well, Tom Palzowitz, don't you perceive crapping on Tony Evers as a viable plan for fighting COVID in the state of Wisconsin?
It is one thing to not want to do anything. It's another to get in the way of other people who are trying to do something. And it's shocking, but this is where we're at. And it's no coincidence that this is where we're at, 'cause it's coming straight from the top of the party ticket. And I just see no leadership here in the state of Wisconsin. And it's appalling. And I applaud Governor Evers for trying to do as much as he can. And there needs to be something in the next couple days that's going to have to basically shut things down to stop this spread, because contact tracers can't even do their job at this point, and we don't know where it's coming from. But all you have to do is think about 64 people dying without their loved ones, without their friends, without the people around them they care about the most. And it is more than disheartening. It is time to make sure things change.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Tom Palzowitz, running for Congress in Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District, joining us on the phone. Well, Tom, I mean, I get the sense from the Republicans, from the president, who says we're bending the curve, to his science office, who says that, we put it behind us, to the Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin who say that, this is really, we've done all we can do. There's nothing more we can do. I get that. Tom, if you're elected to Congress, what would you propose specifically regarding this pandemic? What would you like to see done? What would you cast a vote for?
It's pretty simple. We need a national mask mandate. We need much better quality and fast testing. We need to make sure that there's decent social distancing. We need a lot more contact tracers. And then the other thing we need to pass the HEROES Act, but we need especially more money to put into businesses that feel they have no choice but to take a risk with their lives and the lives of their employees and customers versus the economic realities that they're facing. And to leave people in this position and not give them a chance to do the right thing and save lives doesn't make any sense to me. And those are the things that need to change. We need a lot more money for state and municipal governments. We need a lot more money for schools. We need to make sure that we can bridge the gap between now and when we have vaccines, and we need to do it. We need to do it soon. And I'm hoping that they pass that HEROES Act next week after the election, but it'll be one of the first things that happen if they don't come January.
Tom, I saw on your Twitter feed that you claim that if you are elected, you promise to lead for all Wisconsinites, not just political parties. And it's kind of a similar message that I heard today from Vice President Joe Biden, promising to lead and essentially bringing people together. But I got to ask you, in this environment, what do you hope to accomplish with unity and working together, Tom?
It's the way we get things done. And it is because we can't because every time we do things from a partisan standpoint, the other party tries to undo it. We need to create bipartisan solutions. But here's the thing. We actually have to agree on issues in order to create solutions. And right now, with this president, we can't agree on the issues. And I'm hoping after this election, when we actually have Joe Biden as president, the Republicans will start realizing that there are issues. We can start agreeing on them, and we can start working on them. Infrastructure Week was supposed to happen back in 2017. This president has not passed anything in resemblance to an infrastructure plan. There was a healthcare plan they were going to give out a couple of years ago, and even 3 months ago was going to be in 2 weeks. There's still no healthcare plan. So we know these things are issues that Republicans at least have mentioned that they want to solve, and I think we can start there. But it's got to start with the pandemic. We got to get to the place where we have a place where the number of cases isn't growing; it's decreasing, so we can get our economy open and we can get people back to work.
Tom, obviously, we've had a Supreme Court ruling that will affect Wisconsin's ability to vote during a pandemic. I wanted to see if you had any comment to offer on the 5-3 ruling that Wisconsin votes will only count if they're delivered to the election clerks by election day. After midnight, apparently all the votes turn into pumpkins, Tom.
Well, I think the message needs to be loud and clear at this point. Do not mail your ballot. If you have an absentee ballot, please drop it off at a ballot box. Do not mail it. I've seen studies that show that the post office is starting to slow down again, so do not mail your ballot from here on out. Please drop it off at a ballot box. It's easy to find. There's a bunch of places online to do that, but do not mail your ballot going forward, because if it's not there by, I think that time limit is 8:30 on Tuesday night, it's not going to count. So make sure you get it into a ballot box receptacle.
Tom, Amy Coney Barrett obviously saw a very quick confirmation last night, and before the evening was over, they whisked her off for a photo op at the White House, a ceremonial signing in. Tom, this didn't seem like a very bipartisan action to me. There were no Democrats in support of this nominee. 48 voted against. Tom, obviously, this is pure politics in its rawest form. Do you think there'll be an electoral price to pay, even for a guy like Scott Fitzgerald that would certainly support this aggressive measure?
To tell you the truth, I don't know, because we've been hearing over and over again, elections have consequences. And if people feel this is wrong, hopefully we'll see it at the ballot box. I do think it's wrong. I think it's wrong on a number of different levels. I think the Republicans even said in 2016 that, it's wrong to do. So, if we're really going to have integrity in our elected leaders and officials, we need to hold them accountable to that integrity.
Tom, are you able to knock doors? What sort of feedback are you getting from voters in the 5th?
Yeah, we're not knocking doors. We're doing some lit drops. So we're dropping, basically not knocking on the door, just dropping off some lit. We're doing phone banking. We're doing texting. It seems to me, with all the evidence that we have, and we've been really targeting women who are independents and would sometimes vote Republican. We're getting lots of great feedback that our message is resonating with them. And so we feel good about our chances going into the end of this election. And even though the country's going down the wrong direction, I think everybody has a chance to know that their vote has a chance to change it to the right direction. And we're seeing that right now in our election. We're seeing that in all the suburban elections right now. Emily Segrist, Robin Vining, Sarah Rodriguez, Jessica Katzenmeyer, Jacob Malinowski, Neil Plotkin. We're seeing all these races are really starting to come to fruition, and it's going to send a big message, not only at the national level, but at the state level, that the time of obstructionism is over and it's time to get to work.
And Tom Pelzowitz, I'm sure Scott Fitzgerald is doing the right thing. When will the the congressional debates go off with Fitzy?
Here's the interesting thing about this is Fitzgerald has not even been responsive to the press. There's been a number of different people who reached out to us for interviews where they wanted to interview both of us. And we're seeing it now where he just declined to be interviewed. So not only is declining our debate request, he's declining to be interviewed. He's declining to show up to work. I have no idea what he is doing, but it seems like he's completely hiding from the fact that he's supposed to be running a campaign and be out there talking about ideas and talking about what he wants to do in Washington. He won't do his job here. I don't see how he could ever think about doing his job in Washington.
Tom, I strongly suspect Fitzy at a Trump rally in West Salem. Thank you so much, Tom Pelzowitz. More Devils on the other side.
Good luck. We're all counting on you. Dave from Community PC here. Now more than ever, we're relying on our computers to stay connected with family and friends. Looking for that perfect holiday gift for a family member who struggles with keeping everything up to date? Every day, more and more people are discovering the peace of mind that comes from a Tech Protect plan from Community PC. And it makes the perfect gift for anyone you need to stay connected with. Check out COMMPC.com to learn more. That's COMMPC.com. Community PC. We know what makes computers happy.
Hey folks, this is Patrick, one of the owners of Pegasus Games. For 40 years, Pegasus has been a home for the gaming community. And through these times, our community has remained strong and connected, both online and safely at home. While you've been away, we've been hard at work updating our game room and inventory, and we can't wait to invite you home. For now, stop by the store during our reduced hours from noon to 6. Walk-ins welcome, or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
When you're having computer problems, you need a company you trust to get things working again, quickly and affordably. Madison Computer Works has been doing that for business and residential customers for decades. Our computer care plans take away the hassle of being without your computer or needing to bring it in for repair. Starting at only $10 a month, our local and friendly techs provide remote help and can fix most problems in just minutes. Call 608-231-8000 and sign up today. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, everybody. This is Santita Jackson of the Santita Jackson Show. Every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, say hello, somebody, and join former Bernie Sanders co-chair, former state senator Nina Turner on the Santita Jackson Show on 92.7 FM.
Supplying your political fix in the back roads, WTTN 1580 AM and Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Phone lines are open. You can join us at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, the fine one. He has become a friend, Tom Palsowitz, Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 5th CD.
Running against, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to encourage all of our audience members to vote for him. You can't vote for Fitzy.
Oh, I mean, and this is the seat held by
Fitzy.
Sensenbrenner for like 40 freaking years. I mean, it is time for a change in so many ways. Tom Palsowitz, a solid human being. You can find out more about him. Go to his website at tom4wi.com. That's TOMFORWI.com.
You know, people fear in the gerrymandered districts, and I think sometimes we as Democrats, we work against our own best electoral interest in this regard. We think, well, they're gerrymandered. They're invincible.
Well, that's not the case. To make a lot of districts, quote unquote, invincible, you got to spread them out. And maybe you can set your team up for 55%, a substantial lead. But in a huge tsunami, blue wave sort of election, I mean, all bets are off, man.
Yeah,
I think everyone in this state is vulnerable. And I hope I mean you, Fitzy, and especially you, Robin Voss.
Oh, say it ain't so.
Well, it's going to take a lot of late breakers going against Donald Trump. Those that are truly undecided or haven't cast a vote or, maybe never get around to casting a vote. Well, let's hope they're primarily lining up in the Fitzy Trump column. That or they're on ventilators on election day because they all went to super spreader events across the state of Wisconsin. I mean, that could be decimating to Waukesha County.
Literally, it could be very bad for the Republicans with Trump and Trump's family and the vice president all coming here to these super spreader events. USA Today, we read briefly from that piece in the last hour, documented spikes in cases where Donald Trump has gone. So, I mean, this could be absolutely terrible. Certainly not just optically, but on a public health standpoint, certainly, and even perhaps electorally. If you have a sick constituency that can't go vote, and thanks to Brett Kavanaugh and the conservatives on the Supreme Court cannot probably get an absentee vote in on time, that could be bode poorly for the Republicans.
Herman Cain firmly in the Trump camp. Still, I feel quite confident. 844-967-2789. Our pal Andy in Beaver Dam. Andy, have you tried the new 1580 signal? Now with more vitamin V.
Yeah, what it's doing is it kind of cuts out, you'd be talking and something, and then it comes back.
Oh, no, maybe I'm over-modulating it, Andy. Damn it.
Yeah, I think you went too far. You're right.
Is it louder, though, Andy? The words you can hear, are they louder?
Oh, yeah, it's coming in like a bell once, except for the little whoop, whoop, whatever, But anyway.
Well, that's just Dom wooting.
I got two things for you. First of all, it would be a convenient way to this is going to sound stupid. It would be a convenient way to get rid of Fitzy if he got elected to Congress. But I'm going to be voting for Tom, like I told you guys the other day, because he's the guy. He's he's speaking and he's communicating with potential constituents, and he's doing a good job. So I mean, in that capacity, The other thing is, I thought Dale Schultz. I kind of got a little bit of optimism as to. That maybe in spite of, we won't be sitting in some bar on State Street and finding out that Trump won again the election. I really do think that, when you look at the big picture here, I think that Biden will be able to win in Wisconsin and carry on and so forth. That's my optimism.
Have you?
Dale, go ahead.
I was going to ask if you voted yet, Andy.
I'm going to pull one of your deals. I'm going to go and vote right on the day. Yeah.
As am I. Yep.
Absentee, but we're going to go right and vote on a week from today and try to get in there, maybe when it isn't quite as congested and so forth. But yeah, we're going to go in, and that's the way I've always done. I never voted absentee, but not that that's not a good idea, but he's right. If you're going to vote absentee, take the ballot right to the respective place ahead of time. Don't be worrying about, is it going to get there via the mail? Nothing against the post office, but I think that's sound advice.
Well, certainly 7 days from Election Day, that's sound advice. Take it to the hole like Crudy Duncan on Dominic down low.
Hey, Andy, let me ask you, unfortunately, given the very sad and preventable news today of the spreading infection, the higher rates, the increased hospitalization, and the record number of deaths in the state, Andy, what's your sense around Beaver Dam, around your neck of the woods? Are people taking it seriously, or is it still, a hoax perpetrated by, the media trying to stick it to Donald Trump, as Trump would have his cult members think?
I think really, in spite of the Trump signs around, which I haven't really looked at lately, I'm getting sick of it. I think there really is a sense of that, people should, beware of the situation. My granddaughter got tested in Columbus yesterday because they went down to Milwaukee to some place with girls, and one of the guys in the group was COVID, COVID positive. So, young people feel invincible, like, they're not going to do it. But I really do think there's a sense that, hey, this is serious here, and, you better do the right thing, if nothing else, to protect your fellow citizen rather than just go on like helter-skelter,
Andy, here's my question. Why are you letting your daughter hang out with the Trumpster dude?
That was his granddaughter that got tested, he said.
Well, why is he letting his granddaughter hang out with the COVID spreading Trump?
Come on. Look, COVID doesn't give a damn what your politics are. COVID will attack a Republican, a Democrat, a conservative, a liberal just as easy as anybody else.
Even a Badger quarterback or two. Real quick, Dominic. Mertz is out. Wolf status is unknown. Badgers might be down to their fourth quarterback. How did it get to this point? The Badgers opened the season without Jack Cohn, foot injury. The spectacular Graham Mertz, you know, the guy that went 20-21 last weekend, Dom. He's got the COVID-19. Backup Chase Wolf tested positive for the coronavirus. Dominic, we're down to Danny Vandenboom. Danny, don't go boom. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually.
You Becky, stand.
It is what it is.
From the Capitol in Madison, this is Wiz Politics Midday.
I'm Stephanie Hoff, your host, and this podcast is brought to you by Spectrum. Wisconsin voters, your absentee ballots will have to be returned to local clerks by 8 p.m. on Election Day. The U.S. Supreme Court decided this hours ago, as we are exactly 1 week away from November 3rd. Pat Pavletti is on the line with me today for more on the Supreme Court's decision. This is a shift from previously having ballots postmarked by Election Day, correct?
Kind of, Stephanie. And if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I compared court action on this case to watching a tennis match from mid-court. Well, to further that analogy a little bit, this ruling was essentially match point, and we now have something final for this election. So to go back and give you a little bit more detail here, this originally started when a judge ruled at the end of September that because of the pandemic, ballots that were postmarked by Election Day could be received up to 6 days after Election Day and still be counted. Now, that decision was subsequently appealed to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, which initially rejected that appeal because it came from GOP lawmakers, and the court ruled that they didn't have standing to sue. The court eventually reversed that decision after the state Supreme Court provided clarification that lawmakers do have the standing to defend Wisconsin law in such cases. And the court then ruled that the district court violated a U.S. Supreme Court standard guarding against changes to state standards too close to an election. That decision was then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and in a 5-3 decision, the court rejected the request to keep that 6-day extension in place. So that's a very roundabout way of saying, Stephanie, that ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on Election Day to be counted.
So, Pat, why the change? Was this politically driven? Would that requested extension have been a historical event?
Well, Stephanie, this is a similar process that we saw put in place by the same judge, actually, in our April election, where there was an extension for absentee ballots to be counted so long as they were postmarked by Election Day. Now, in the sense that it was a political decision, I don't really want to put motivation directly onto the justices who decided this, but it is worth noting that both sides of the aisle politically were represented in this case. The National Democratic Party was a plaintiff in bringing this lawsuit in the first place. And as I mentioned earlier, state GOP lawmakers were among those who appealed the case.
So what is the mail-in absentee ballot status in Wisconsin?
I can give you the latest number, Stephanie. So as of this morning, more than 1.45 million absentee ballots have been returned out of the 1.8 million that have been requested. Now, that total includes more than 352,000 people who voted early in person. Now, it is worth noting, Stephanie, that this decision isn't the end of the legal drama surrounding this election. Now, we've been talking quite a bit on this podcast about an issue in Outagamie and Calumet counties with the timing marks on ballots. Those two counties went to the state Supreme Court yesterday asking for a fix to the ballots. The latest on that is that the Supreme Court asked the municipal clerks in those counties that are going to be affected by this decision to respond to the proposed fix that the counties have provided. Now, the best way they found to resolve it is what the Elections Commission recommended last week, which is simply taking a Sharpie and filling in the mark in the timing box.
Well, thanks, Pat, for updating us on, as you put it, the legal drama surrounding the election. And for the latest on suits regarding November 3rd, which is now days away, you can visit wispolitics.com. Until tomorrow, I'm Stephanie Hoff. Thanks for tuning in.
This has been WIS Politics Midday. For more state government and political news, visit wispolitics.com.
From Bernie to Biden to even Trump supporters, Devil Radio is the political fix for every Wisconsinite. Always streaming at darnwi.com.
The Devil's Advocates, so relevant they have one foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. 7 days till the election. I don't know if we thanked our last fine guest, Tom Pelzwitz. I'll do so now. I'll look forward to our next fine guest joining us in the 4 o'clock happy hour, former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. I think he's also going to be part of the big, super tremendous election night coverage as only you and I can do it. You and I and Fancy Brian right here on Devil Radio 92.7. Dominic, 8 till midnight, maybe later, but I think the party will be going strong. I think we'll know Joe Biden will be the next president well before midnight, because I think he's banking early votes and he's got all the best surrogates, doesn't have his kids out there on the road, a la Trump. Wonder how Trump Jr. is doing in De Pere on behalf of the old man today. But
just fine, I'm sure. I can't wait. Election coverage 1 week from today, 8 to midnight, Curtis says, but we're getting the band back
or
together.
later.
We got Maggie Dawn. She has committed to swing by and hang out and join us, as well as you mentioned, James Santelle. I think we got Matt Flynn. Of course, we have to reach out to our pal, Earl Ingram Jr.
Way past his bedtime. Coverage doesn't even start till 8.
He'll be up. He'll be motivated, I am sure. And, of course, our fair audience, make sure you tune in. Join us. It will be a political party like no other.
One of the points I was trying to make more broadly, though, Joe Biden's got the best surrogates, and I would say Barack Obama perhaps number one, top of the heap. Well, Barack Obama went on the stump yesterday on behalf of Joe Biden. My understanding, he was in southern Florida, and we've got some of the sound want to play for our fair audience. Fancy Brian, going to need your help. I hope you can stay up past midnight, Fancy Brian. Let's play for the people, Barack Obama. Hello, Orlando, cut 30.
Hello, Orlando.
This is the drive-in rally.
There's a good-looking crowd here.
What, the cars? He likes the cars?
Hey, man, those Florida cars, they hold up. They don't have the salt like we do up here in Wisconsin.
The occasional hurricane, though. More of Barack Obama in Florida yesterday. 1 week to the most important election of all of our lifetimes. Cut 31.
We got 1 week, Orlando. 1 week. Si se puede. 1 week until the most important election of our lifetimes.
Wow, he's kind of like putting his own election on the back burner there, huh?
Oh, more important than the re-election. Well, he already won his.
So
that's a foregone conclusion.
Oh, okay.
Beating Trump, priority number one. And the POTUS, well, let's hear what he has to say about the POTUS. Cut 32.
You got a president right now. He wants full credit for an economy that he inherited. He wants zero blame for the pandemic he ignored.
Well, it was China's fault.
That's right. I take full responsibility, but it's not my fault.
It's China's fault. China. More of Barack Obama. I like the fact that he can say China. Barack Obama. I don't know that he says it here, but more Barack Obama on behalf of Joe Biden on the stump in Florida. I hear Trump's pulling all his ads out of Florida.
Bloomberg reporting all ads, essentially pulling all campaign advertising out of Florida.
Trump must be up that much.
Yeah, I mean, huge victories for Trump.
More Barack Obama on Trump. I think Obama thinks Trump screwed this one up. Cut 33.
The pandemic would have been challenging for any president. But this idea that somehow this White House has done anything but completely screw this thing up is nonsense.
Ain't that the truth? That is some truth right there. Absolute nonsense. Of course, Trump downplayed it, although he was very candid with Bob Woodward, back in February.
Didn't want you to panic, though, Don.
Thankfully we have a leader like that who really trusts the American people.
According to Barack Obama, Donald Trump is the worst president since Herbert Hoover. I'd say, why not ever?
Ever.
Played for the people. Barack Obama cut 34.
Economic damage that he inflicted by botching the pandemic response means he will be the first president since Herbert Hoover to actually lose jobs.
Oh, he didn't say he wasn't worse than Hoover, just the first president to lose jobs since Herbert Hoover. Trumpville?
And how does that go along with what this image that Donald Trump tries to portray? And of course, it's a
what about your 401k? What about your stock portfolios?
What? 90% of the stocks are owned by the 1%. The top 10% own 90% of the equity in the stock market. And how is his reaction? If this is purely a business standpoint, if you're going to judge Donald Trump strictly on the employment, well, obviously that's a loser. You could argue the stock market, certainly, but the Fed's been pumping in. We've been pumping in. Rates are kept low. How much has that had an impact on the stock market?
You're just jealous, Dominic. In fact, you're such a sucker. You probably pay taxes.
I know. I paid more than $750 in taxes. Oh, no. For Curdy, I prepaid millions of dollars. Trust me on that.
More Barack Obama talking about Jared Kushner, the son-in-law chief, played for the people. You remember Kushner said something a little off color yesterday. 35.
His son-in-law says black folks have to want to be successful. That's the problem. Who are these folks? What history books do they read?
The only reason why Kushner got into Harvard, not because he was a legacy, but because dad bought a wing. To the tune of millions of dollars. Jared Kushner never had the grades to get into Harvard. When he's talking about you got to want to succeed, he means as badly as daddy wants you to succeed. And if your daddy paves the way with millions of dollars, hell, Dom, you or I could have gotten into Harvard. At least me.
No doubt. And we quoted Kushner yesterday, and I'm glad that the former president is bringing it up again. And to answer the question, albeit rhetorically for the president, they're racist. For Kushner to stand up and number one, talk about the complaints of black people, and to say that, they got to want to have it more than we want them to be successful, it is just one of the most ignorant, asinine, racist, dog whistle comments anybody could possibly make.
Black people, what the hell do they have to lose? Question mark. One last one. Barack Obama, Biden's history of Obamacare cut 36.
Republicans love saying right before an election how they're going to protect people who have pre-existing conditions. Have you noticed that? Well, you know what? Joe and I actually protected them.
It was a BFD.
And Donald Trump and the Republicans have been saying, Republicans specifically for 10 years, Donald Trump for 4, that he's got a big, beautiful plan that's going to roll out in weeks, and all the sections are there, and we're almost done, and et cetera, et cetera. Then he hands this huge binder, inches thick of reams of paper to Leslie Stahl at the end of 60 Minutes that contains actually no comprehensive health care plan, some executive orders, some congressional ideas, perhaps some proposals, but there is no plan. There has never been a plan. There never will be a plan. That's the plan. And for them, for the cult members and the Republicans and conservatives to continue to believe a damn thing that this administration says, or the Republican Party in general, is absolutely laughable. Republicans and conservatives have pre-existing conditions too. This isn't just a Democratic Republican thing. The COVID doesn't give a damn. You will have a pre-existing condition if you come down with the COVID. And if Coney Barrett and the conservatives are successful in the U.S. Supreme Court, you will be kicked off of your insurance. Good luck. To say that they're going to cover people with pre-existing conditions is not the same as actually covering people with pre-existing conditions.
Dominic, real quick from the Raw story, former President Barack Obama on Tuesday asserted that Donald Trump is jealous of the media coverage that has been given to the COVID-19 pandemic. This week, do you know what he brought up? Obama asked a group of Joe Biden supporters in Orlando the crowd size at the inauguration again, saying his was bigger. Who's thinking about that right now? Nobody except him. And what's his closing argument? The former president continued that people are too focused on COVID. He said this at one of his rallies. COVID, COVID, COVID. He's complaining. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage. If he had been focused on COVID from the beginning, cases wouldn't be reaching new record highs across the country this week. If he were focused on COVID now, the White House wouldn't be having its second COVID outbreak in a month. The White House can't even keep himself safe, can he, Dom? And my understanding, Donald Trump, well, he's a little jealous of Barack Obama. Barack Obama, a far more popular politician than Trump ever prayed or hoped to be. And today, Trump chants, COVID, 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 COVID. That's 10 COVIDs. I think he's showing the unraveling in public, Dom. David Edwards reporting President Donald Trump on Tuesday again complained about the amount of media coverage being given to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Trump made the remarks at a campaign event in Lansing, Michigan. He was there earlier today, Dom. Now he's in West Salem, where Trump reminded supporters that he had been infected by the virus. I would like to give me full credit, the president said, of his recovery. Yeah, Fancy?
He also, and let me play this here for you, he also complains that he has better rally turnouts than Obama does.
But there's never been anything like this in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of crowds. I saw Obama this morning. He had a couple of cars, they're honking their horn.
Renting space in his head.
Yeah.
I would like to give me full credit, the president said, of his recovery. I don't want to give the drug any credit. I don't want to say because I'm a very young person that it's in perfect physical shape. I took that virus and I woke up the next morning and I felt like Superman. That is a precise reading of the quote.
He took that virus.
I took that virus and he took it. He tackled it. He wrestled it. He's just so much better than the virus.
He went to the hospital and they gave him oxygen. You had to leave the White House because it ravaged your old ass body so bad they were concerned about your health.
Then a little more of the quote from Donald Trump. With them, you can't watch anything else. You turn on COVID, 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 COVID. Does that 10 times consecutively. Do you ever notice they don't use the word death? They use the word cases. Here's the word death. 64 new dead people in the state of Wisconsin, where you, Donald Trump, are choosing to rally today out of what? Jealousy for your predecessor to the White House, because he's sticking it to you because you have no freaking plan, sir.
Curdy, I don't know if you recall this, but 8 months ago, yesterday, February 26th, the president said, and you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero. That's a pretty good job we've done. 8 months ago, yesterday, he said that.
Trump said earlier today, and you know why we have so many cases?
Testing.
Because we test more.
Of course.
In many ways, I hate it. We test everybody. Just hours earlier, former President Barack Obama had blasted Trump's accession with the media attention. He's jealous of the COVID media coverage, Obama said. Yes, I think he just might be, Dom. How do you lose to a disease? Donald Trump is losing the election, not to Joe Biden, the worst candidate ever. He's losing the election to COVID. I mean, effectively, Donald Trump, and I think he's been a terrible president. You know that. Impeached for a reason, should have been convicted, not acquitted. But the COVID reaction, if he'd have only been honest with the American people like he was with Bob Woodward, he would be cruising to re-election.
I cannot imagine what else the president could have done if he was purposefully trying to harm this country with this virus. I'm not, for real. I don't know how else he could have reacted if he was trying to grow the virus.
You mean you wouldn't have 3 to 5 super spreader events per day on the campaign trail?
I mean, what a joke.
In the midst of spiraling COVID numbers right here in the state of Wisconsin, we are the epicenter of the world.
Number 1, baby.
So that's why Trump's here to rally. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
What's been going on while I've been gone?
COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't hear about it anymore.
Do you smell?
We have the power to decide our nation's future. The power to build an America where everyone has affordable health care, equal justice under the law, and a chance at a better future. Our vote is power. Now it's time to show just how powerful we are. Visit moveon.org/vote to find your polling location and vote by Tuesday, November 3rd. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
I'm Congressman Mark Pocan. You sent me to Washington to be a strong voice for Wisconsin's families, and that responsibility has never been more important. Like many of you, I've witnessed COVID-19's impact on our families. It's why I worked alongside my colleagues to pass the HEROES Act, a vote to keep families fed and safe in their house, a vote to protect small businesses, a vote to provide funding for COVID testing, contact tracing, and protecting our frontline workers. On November 3rd, I'm asking you to send me back to continue this work. I won't be satisfied until real action is taken, and I'll help bring Democrats and Republicans together to do what's right. Please make a plan to vote safely on November 3rd and help others do the same. I'm Mark Pocan. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, and I approve this message. Paid for by Mark Pocan for Congress, Sandy Polk Treasurer.
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com. Devil Radio, your fix for progressive news talk from Verona to Sun Prairie. Always streaming at darnwi.com.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Our pal, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, going to join us in the 4 o'clock hours, taking your calls up till then at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, going to the phone. Shade from Minneapolis. Welcome to the greatest radio show ever. What do you got for us?
Hi. Well, I hope I'm not changing the subject, but I didn't know if you would have heard what I heard about Ron Johnson on AM 950, Progressive Voice of Minnesota, that Mr. Johnson did not support a bill that would make it illegal to crush kittens and put the video up on YouTube.
I cannot heard that one
specifically speak to the crush kittens bill, but if Ron was on the wrong side of history again, it would just be pretty much par for the course, Shay.
Well,
but I had not heard that one.
Really
That's news.
Negative rating from the human whatever they call it, the for Animals Society. Whereas Kamala Harris got a full 10 points from the Humane Society.
What about Donald Trump? Do you trust a man that dogs don't trust?
Well, I don't know, but he might be under the Humane Society's protection. No, sorry, that's kind of a low dig. But anyway, yeah, I thought I'd pass that along to you. Interesting thing that Ron Johnson does at least does not discourage kitten crushing.
Well, I had not heard that about Dominic's buddy Ron Shea, but I would say he doesn't give a damn about humans. Why would he care about kittens? Why would he, Dom?
Thank you for the call, Shay. Appreciate it. 844-967-2789.
I hope that Shay tunes in for our election night coverage on KTNF 950 AM. We'll be playing out live up there, providing all the breaking coverage all night long.
Most excellent.
Hope it's a blue tsunami party, Dom.
You know, I think the last really like remote broadcast that we did, Crudy, was up in Minneapolis before all the crap hit the fan with the COVID.
Who was our friend from Milwaukee that had passed? We met his daughter up there in Minneapolis.
Was that Paul?
No, not Paul. Like Jay from Milwaukee. Good guy. He had stopped down to a couple of our parties, and we met his daughter up there.
Yeah.
Made a point of sending his daughter to the Devil's Advocates. That was our Super Tuesday party. I think that was like March 11th. But we were up there in Minneapolis and had a hell of a good time that night, Dom.
Yeah, good times had by all. It's been a long time coming, man. You know, all the traveling and the remote broadcasts, and going and bringing the political party to our fair audience has been. I've been missing it, man. I can't wait for all this stuff to be over.
Why would you want it over, Dom? Then what are we going to talk about?
Well, I look forward to getting back to it. Like I said, man, tax rates. How about something like that? Legalize marijuana, something like that. We got to, the things that we have to discuss now with the pandemic and we can't even get to, as Pals would say, we have to agree on what the facts are, right? It's one thing to engage with your political rivals, your adversaries, or your philosophical, opposites in trying to self-govern, but you cannot do that when you cannot even agree on the foundational facts of whatever it is you're going to be discussing. And in this particular case, it happens to be COVID-19. And we've been just dancing around each other, and specifically the Republicans have been failing to engage. The Republicans and the conservatives have been engaging in miscommunication, let's call it, disinformation, perhaps, alternative facts, if you would. They have not been helpful in this environment. And it really bothers me. I see, ads for, local congressional Republicans. I'm thinking the guy down in the first. I'm thinking of Glenn Grothman, and they're all walking around wearing their masks. If that is the case, then why aren't you telling the rest of the Republicans this is exactly what we should do? You don't put it on for a campaign commercial. You put it on to lead your Republican Party to help stem the tide so we can open the economy, so we can get back to business. If that's what you want, you got to solve the pandemic problem before you can solve the economic problem. And wearing a mask for a photo shoot doesn't cut it.
No, you missed the White House declared mission accomplished.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Pandemic's
That's
over.
okay.
Dom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just in time for the election.
I take it all back.
And there's extra vaccine for everybody with your Halloween candy this year.
Get it all.
It's in the candy corn.
And pre-existing conditions now covered.
That's in the binder.
In the binder? Is a binder full of women?
That was Mitt Romney's binder.
Okay.
No self-respecting woman would be in the Trump binder. Real quick, Donald Trump hits Western Wisconsin, hoping to recapture the 2016 support. Well, his little rally going off in a few minutes, Tom. West Salem, President Donald Trump won Wisconsin along the highways and back roads that wind through the bluffs and farmlands of Western Wisconsin. Call that God's country, Dom, where the president visits Tuesday in the last days of his re-election campaign. Trump will speak to voters at a racetrack in West Salem, a town of about 5,000 in the La Crosse media market that is a bellwether, voting for every winning candidate in Wisconsin for governor and president for more than 3 decades. He's trying to win La Crosse County. This region of Western Wisconsin is full of voters who supported former President Barack Obama in 12 and Trump in 16. One of the state's 5 media markets, La Crosse has experienced the largest shift, voting Democrat by 10 in 2012 and Republican by 5 in 2016. The region swung again in 18, narrowly supporting Democratic Governor Tony Evers after previously backing former GOP gubernator Scotty Wanker in 14. Trump is hoping for another swing back to the 2016 visit. His visit to West Salem is part of the relentless series of COVID super spreading events to a state he won by less than a percentage point last time. Trump was in Janesville a little over a week ago, in Waukesha. I heard it said that way again today.
Oh, no.
Guy on the East Coast.
Come on, you East Coasters. Crudy, there is one person, I think, in La Crosse area that will definitely go to a Donald Trump COVID rally without wearing a mask, full-throated support of this president, the smiley face killer.
Well, I thought Donald Trump was the smiley face killer. Or maybe that's Fitzy.
You never see both of them at the same place at the same time.
Who's that? Trump and the smiley face killer?
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. Come back with us. A fine guest soon. Jane Santelle, former U.S. attorney and a friend of ours. The happy hour commences right freaking now.
Do you smell what Barack is cooking?
It's not good. It hasn't been good. We've been against it.
We have seen a small increase in deaths, which is a good thing.
I had to beat off.
It is what it is.
America has reached a tipping point. We're being torn apart at the seams, right when we need to be more united than ever as Americans. Joe Biden is the only candidate who can bring us together to get our country moving again.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. While I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. That's the job of a president, to represent all of us, not just our base or our party.
Because only when we come together can we rebuild our economy the right way for working people. Biden's plan? No tax increases if you make under $400,000. Create 18 million new jobs. Higher wages. With ideas both parties can support.
This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus and W224EG 92.7 FM Madison. Always streaming at talk927fm.com.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. President Trump is telling supporters to give the left a thundering defeat.
You have to get out there on Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, I don't care. Today, you have to get out there and vote.
The president is campaigning today in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. In Warm Springs, Georgia, Joe Biden's message 1 week before Election Day is about healing.
Though broken, each of us can be healed. That as a people and a country, we can overcome this devastating virus. That we can heal a suffering world. And yes, we can restore our soul and save our country.
In the battleground state of Iowa, elections officials are worried about the state's rising number of coronavirus cases, that any illnesses or absences among key workers and volunteers could hinder their services through Election Day. The governor of Illinois is banning indoor dining in Chicago. A hurricane warning is up along the Louisiana coast. Zeta is heading to Governor John Bel Edwards' state.
We're still expecting a landfall early tomorrow evening in southeast Louisiana of a Category 1 hurricane.
Edwards says Zeta is a fast-moving storm, which could mean less rain. In Southern California, the big threat is fire.
This is apocalyptic. I mean, the skies are turning a different color orange. It's frightening.
Gabriel Sanchez is in Yorba Linda. More than 100,000 people have been evacuated in the paths of two out-of-control wildfires. Winds are picking up again today. Disgraced self-improvement guru Keith Raniere, whose followers include millionaires and Hollywood actors, was sentenced to 120 years in prison for turning some followers into sex slaves branded with his initials. A judge has sided with Virginia's governor, who wants the statue of Robert E. Lee in Richmond removed. On Wall Street, stocks finished mixed. This is AP News.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on Us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contact us to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
Walgreens has always been there to help make your healthcare easier. From making sure you have the prescriptions you need to answering any questions you have about them. Now, the question is whether you have the right Medicare plan. And we're here to help make that easier too. Walgreens can save you money and peace of mind with copays as low as $0. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare today to see how. Walgreens. We make Medicare easy. $0 copay on Tier 1 generic drugs when enrolled in a plan with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy.
The challenges we face today are too big to tackle just as Democrats or just as Republicans. We have to do it as Americans. This virus, this recession, it's hitting working people hardest. And Joe Biden knows that this recovery must be about them, not the super rich.
I'll be laser focused on working families. That's why I've laid out a comprehensive agenda, not just to rebuild our communities, but to make bold investments so we can build back and build back better. We're going to invest in creating millions of good paying jobs, building roads, bridges, highways, ports, airports.
A mission both parties can agree with, because it's time we come together as Americans.
But while I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
I'm Congressman Mark Pocan. On November 3rd, I'm asking for your vote. A vote for good-paying jobs here in Wisconsin and across the country. A vote in support of small business and a stronger economy in times of COVID-19. On November 3rd, please make a plan to vote safely and help others do the same. I'm Mark Pocan. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, and I approve this message. Paid for by Mark Pocan for Congress, Sandy Pope, Treasurer.
This is Tony with Quality CBD. We are located on Willie Street across from the co-op. At Quality CBD, we are vertically integrated. From soil to oil and seed to sale, we grow, extract, manufacture, and distribute quality CBD oil. We also have contact-free delivery options at qualitycbd.org. Quality CBD. Legal, local, legit.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 27th. 2 more Wisconsin prisons have COVID-19 outbreaks totaling more than 500 active cases. The outbreaks come on the heels of 5 other massive outbreaks of more than 100 cases in the prison system over the last 2 months, the Department of Corrections reported Monday. Xcel Energy announces plans for largest solar project in western Wisconsin.
Hello, Jim Santelle.
Another significant step forward.
Oh, Brian, how are you?
Construct a 74 megawatt solar.
Glorious, happy to hear you. We got you.
It's okay.
Ready to wrap.
Largest solar facility in western Wisconsin. Packers, Brewers, and Bucks join coalition encouraging efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Nick of time. I was talking to a judge about 45 seconds
in a new
ago.
coalition effort to help stop the spread of COVID-19, encouraging Wisconsinites to do their part to help slow the spread of the virus. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the 4 o'clock happy hour. Just 7 days till election day. We got a fine guest right from the top. He joins us very dapperly on Zoom. James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, Jim, you didn't have to dress up for little old devil's advocate sauce.
Today, the coat goes on because it's a special day, always a special day to talk to the two of you. But we've got a new dress protocol at the Santelle residence, and we're following that today once again.
You're looking good, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Jim, the Supreme Court both confirmed the nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, confirmed by the Senate. I believe the vote 52-48. And then on to the White House for an impanelment, a swearing-in party. Jim, I thought perhaps the sport coat in honor of Amy Coney Barrett.
The sport coat today is in honor of a judicial system, and I would make the observation, which again is a bit speculative, that the Chief Justice was not there for the swearing in. And that is because the swearing in traditionally happens, the official swearing in happens on Capitol Hill at the United States Supreme Court building. That has been the tradition. I think what we saw last night at the White House was ceremonial in nature. It certainly was a part of our American history now, but the official way that this is done is at the Supreme Court. And that's just not a matter of convenience. That is a matter of tradition, and it reflects the tradition of the United States Constitution, which says that we have three separate, equal, but separate branches of government. And so when we have a new Supreme Court justice, admittedly nominated by a president, confirmed by the United States Senate, what we do is we then acknowledge that that person is vested in that third branch of government, the judiciary, independent of those other branches. And that symbolism then of having Amy Coney Barrett sworn in by the Chief Justice at the Supreme Court is all important. And that's what's happening today. I would make the observation that that should be the one that America focuses on as a reaffirmation of not only that distance, but that appropriate balancing with the White House, with the Congress, and the fact that the judiciary is independent of both of those.
Well, don't tell that to Amy Coney Barrett. Looked quite transfixed by the president over at the White House. That was the third time Trump's had a Supreme Court justice over to the White House for the swearing in for the ceremony, Jim. But something she said immediately after, a rigorous hearing, something to that effect. I paraphrase. Jim, did you find the hearing of Amy Coney Barrett to be rigorous, or just her attempts to avoid answering any of the questions? She was quite rigorous at that.
Yeah.
There have been previous observers who are much brighter and more astute than I am, who have observed that this is sort of like kabuki theater. And it has been that way for many, many years, including both Democratic appointees and Republican appointees. The Department of Justice, as I indicated the last time that we talked, does prepare Supreme Court justices and other candidates for judiciary, again, down at 9th Street and Constitution. And a part of that preparation is to do this. You're not going to respond to specific questions about how you decide a specific case, but you can and should, in fact, talk about your judicial philosophy, the kinds of things you bring to those decisions. And my own sense is that with respect to some of this, we chatted about this last time, there are things that now Justice Amy Coney Barrett could have and should have said that do not fall in the category of case-specific things, but affirmations of general truths. And those include things like the possibility that climate change exists, that in fact there is a thing called a voter suppression, that Brown versus Board of Education, other things like that, that separate but equal, no longer the law of this land. Those kinds of fundamental things that are settled in our jurisprudence, settled in our relationships among citizens, those kinds of things you would expect every justice to want to embrace, even short of deciding how you're going to make a resolution of a particular case. And plainly, she not only avoided questions on the specifics, but on those broader things. And frankly, that's what I think gives an awful lot of people pause when you review that rigorous, actually not so rigorous examination by members of the House of the Senate Judiciary.
Well, Jim, then I got to ask them: is the impression that lay people should get by these non-answers, of which you would consider, basically, general truths, that she doesn't think that these are settled issues?
And that is the inference when you say either I don't know, which again, she must know those things. She is an educated person. She is plainly bright. She's articulate. She's been on the bench now since 2017. I would offer to you that, again, language means something in these settings. To say that I don't know whether those fundamental principles are part of our national jurisprudence You can acknowledge those things without offending without having to offend anybody on any side of the political spectrum, by acknowledging those things that are truthful and that are right. And again, part of our established law in this country, admittedly, some of those can be revisited, not just around the edges, but those fundamental core truths can and should be a part of and statements by any candidate for the federal bench, including on the Supreme Court. Absolutely, I expect that. And
I see a lot of the folks that I communicate with on the social medias that are conservatives are ecstatic about Amy Coney Barrett's appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court. And they reiterate, I guess, similar language from U.S. Senator Ron Johnson that, well, this is different from Merrick Garland because, we have a Republican president, we have a Republican Senate, and, they went along with it in this time. And, it was not the same last time with Merrick Garland. Historically speaking, do you agree with that assessment, Jim?
I must tell you that, again, I have spent some time pondering this. I have not lost hours of sleep thinking about it, but I've never quite understood what that argument is. That because of the political affiliation of the White House and of the Senate, it makes a difference when it comes to timing. The Constitution says the president nominates and the Senate advises and consents or not to those nominations. And it seems to me, in the case of Merrick Garland, as we all well know, 10, 11 months before the end of the Obama presidency, that nomination was made. Does it, as you step back academically, intellectually think about that, does the fact that the president happens to be a Democrat and the Senate was held by the Republicans, vice versa, or that they were both the Senate and the presidency was held by the same party? What difference does that make, aside from, again, a distinction that is not a difference, as they often say? And so, again, I am among those folks who look at this historically and see a Senate that a couple of years ago did not even give Merrick Garland the not only courtesy, but the constitutional prerogative of a vote on his nomination properly made by a president sitting in the White House, did not even permit that vote to go forward, A or nay. That process did not even happen. I think it set a horrible precedent. And again, we've got this situation where the only distinction is we look to the politics of the people inhabiting those different branches of government and say that's what makes the difference here. I think it is a difference with a distinction without a difference. And I think history will show that to be the case. Again, presidents have a right to nominate. Senates have a right to advise and consent as they seem fit. But all of these kinds of things, including the fact, as many people have observed, we are right now electing a president as we speak. That too is significant.
Yeah, 60+ million people already voted. James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, our friend, joining us via the Zoom. All right, Jim, the vice president has been a little coy with regards to his thoughts on adding additional justices to the U.S. Supreme Court, perhaps, establishing a committee. I wanted to get your sense of that, given these circumstances. I'm personally tired of seeing liberals bringing a knife to a gunfight. I think everything should be on the table. Jim, do you concur with that opinion? Do you think they should, quote unquote, pack the court should Biden win and we have a blue wave? And if so, whether you agree with it or not, if they went forward with that, what would that process look like?
Sure. And the reason I went away from the camera right now is because my notes were off to the left on this very issue. We'll do a little history, maybe a little bit of law school, which we often do. So the Judiciary Act of 1789, which is a legislative enactment, and that's really the answer to your question. The decision about how many justices are on the Supreme Court is not in the Constitution. It is not there. It is a matter for legislative decision-making. And so sure enough, 1789, our first Supreme Court, 6 members by the Judiciary Act of 1789. Throughout the coming century or so, it drops briefly to 5, although it never really happened, goes up to 7 in 1807, goes way up to 9 in 1837, up to 10 in 1863, right before as the Civil War is underway, back to 7 in 1866, and then back to 9 in 1869, which is where it has stayed. And all of that, again, by legislative fiat. The answer to the law school question, the answer to the procedural question is the United States Congress can pass legislation with respect to the sizes, the numbers, the locations of all kinds of courts. And that's a part of the Constitution. It can, in fact, be done by a future Congress. It's sometimes called packing. It's maybe just call increasing the size of the court. There's nothing unconstitutional about doing it. And if the president, if a next president, a next Congress decides to increase the number, you can do that constitutionally, lawfully, not only because of the history, but because of the lack of any restrictions in the United States Constitution.
Jim, theoretically, could we see addition through subtraction? You talked about the courts going from 10 to 7. Well, could we subtract an Alito, a Kavanaugh, and maybe Clarence Thomas and go 4-3 for a while, 7 total?
Right. I think the reference point here also has to do with some references in the Constitution to their salary. My sense is, again, constitutional scholars who are much brighter than, much more astute than I am would probably tell you that you can't go backwards. You can't effectively reduce the number of sitting justices because the way that the language of the Constitution, they remain in office during good behavior. Their office, at least as to now, has been established as lifetime tenure. The other thing you could do, however, is you could define that office to mean not lifetime tenure. You could, if you wanted to, define the office being, choose your number, 4 years, 16 years is often bandied about, say number of terms of a president. You can establish term limits, if you will. Again, none of that in the Constitution, and possible to define it inside the language of the Constitution legislatively.
Well, we've got our own limits. We've got a hard break. Come back with us. More James Santelle, our fine guest.
Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue.
We really don't know if I have the authority to do that.
Are you a small business owner or professional that would like to be featured in your own weekly Ask the Expert radio segment or show on Devil Radio? Let us help you in your business. Team with our broadcast professionals to create the right show or segment, setting you apart as the go-to professional and as an expert in your field. All shows and sponsored segments are podcasted. It will be professional broadcast quality. Packages from $395. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-TALK.
I'm Rocker, and this is my vodka, distilled right here in Madison, made from corn and gluten-free. Try Rocker Vodka at Sal's Dark Horse on Livingston or Sugar River Pizza in Verona. Find Rocker Vodka at Star Liquor, Woodman's, Willie Street Co-op, Vic Pierce, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, Miller & Sons, and more at rockervodka.com.
At Chad's Design Build, we value honesty, hard work, accountability, and humility. And we have the same expectations for our elected leaders. We don't ignore problems and we don't blame others when we make a mistake. Right now, we all need to focus on helping each other, restoring health to our community, demanding accountability from our leaders, and showing gratitude to the people who sacrifice for others. On behalf of our entire team at Chad's Design Build, this is Chad Spate.
Lando Commando here at Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, State Street's one-stop shop for all your CBD and vape needs, along with a walk-in humidor and huge glass selection. Check out the website, knuckleheadcbd.com, for an in-store menu and growing online catalog, and get your order shipped right to your door. With voting season upon us, Knuckleheads wants you to get out and vote. Get a free vote t-shirt with every $50 purchase. Located at 550 State Street, the shop is open 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, and you can now call to schedule delivery or pickup. Knucklehead CBD and Vapes, high above State Street, your safest place in Madison.
From Portage to Watertown, Devil Radio on WTTN 1580 AM is essential radio to get you through your day.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go online to DominiCrute.com. You can listen to and download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, we've got a very special guest here in our Devil's Triangle. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle. Jim, we appreciate you coming around today.
Glad to be with you as always.
U.S. Supreme Court ruled on a Wisconsin election case. It was the national headline yesterday. Jim, effectively, they tell us that any votes that arrive back, any absentee ballots that are mailed in that arrive back after election day, they won't be counted. And if I understood Kavanaugh's logic, something about the votes turned into pumpkins at midnight. Jim, can you help our fair audience understand this ruling, the 5-3 ruling of the current 8-member U.S. Supreme Court?
Sure. It comes up obviously in the district court right here in Wisconsin, and eventually makes its way to the Supreme Court, where again, because we do right now, until last evening and today, have 8 members of the Supreme Court deciding this issue about whether or not to extend the counting for mail-in ballots. That's what it's all about. The previous ruling from the district court is a brief extension of time to permit the receipt of those ballots counted perhaps after the official voting day is concluded, but in the interest of promoting the opportunity for everybody's vote to be counted. And so 5-3, pretty much down liberal and conservative lines, including, as you said, Justice Kavanaugh's references to what happens if, in fact, ballots are not counted on that day. I would offer, as have many other people, the view that the tradition of our nation has been to encourage and to support the notion that every woman, every man of age qualifies, should have a vote. And the notion that because of some, frankly, fairly non-specific decision about a deadline in early November, that should restrict votes from being counted, strikes me as the kind of thing that does undermine the general franchise and does prohibit people's votes from counting. What has to happen now, of course, is that word needs to go out to all Wisconsin folks that they need to get that ballot, to ensure that that ballot is in, which means that if you are voting by mail-in ballot, send it in today, get it in promptly, because if it's not in the hands of your clerk by election day, it will not be counted. Again, this has not been the tradition. When you look at the history of the Voting Rights Act, you look at the legislative history of the Voting Rights Act, everything that has been done under it, with the exception, once again, of Shelby County versus Holder, this case that limited the capacity of the Department of Justice to enforce the Voting Rights Act. Every other tradition along the way, judicially, with stops and starts, admittedly, has been, let us ensure that Americans can vote, that they have a right to participate in their democracy, to select the people who are going to represent them in Congress and other important branches of government. This is a shot at that for no reason other than, from my perspective, to limit that all-important right.
But Jim, it also parallels the Trump theory. And the Trump theory, if you believe Trump, is effectively, people are going to see that Donald Trump won the election on election day. They're going to then hastily fill out their absentee ballots, drop them in a mailbox. They'll come back days later. And as Kavanaugh warned of, we'll see the flipping of an election. But of course, it's not a finalized election until the votes canvassed, et cetera. Jim, it seems asinine logic on behalf of Kavanaugh, the Associate Justice. I want to get your opinion, sir. Flipping the vote.
Right. And again, doesn't this partake of the kinds of discussions that regrettably we're having about so many issues in America these days, that as we come up with all sorts of hypothetical possibilities about what could happen, and it assumes ultimately that you have got Americans who I believe, and I think you believe, and your listeners believe, are fundamentally good and decent people who are not going to be engaging in voting fraud. We know with absolute clarity that just doesn't happen in America, with the exception of a few very, very random and peculiar circumstances that sort of defy description. That kind of voting fraud doesn't happen. And beyond that, this notion that now we're going to concoct this cabal-like theory that tens of thousands of Americans are going to engage in this kind of fraud, it's beyond speculation. It is the kind of thing that good judicial opinions should not be predicated upon. Let's approach this from the fundamental notion, once again, that we want people to vote. We want their votes to count. How do we make that happen? And yes, we don't want them to be voting in January. We understand that, and probably not in December, and maybe in late November. We've got some parameters on that, but that's what the district court in Wisconsin established. Some parameters that were reasonable and rational. That's what Justice Kavanaugh and the others in the majority should have been focused on.
Jim, but even this ruling, seemingly he contradicted himself. He misquoted Vermont law. My understanding, Kavanaugh got it absolutely wrong as to the facts. But Jim, Pennsylvania, didn't they have a different ruling? The state Supreme Court ruled what? To count absentee ballots beyond Election Day, and the Supreme Court upheld that as well. How can you have it both ways, Jim?
Right. And again, this underscores this notion. Wisconsin is among several states that have been before the Supreme Court on these issues. We know that before. Pennsylvania, as you just indicated, is there. North Carolina also has a similar kind of case pending. And again, we read some of the tea leaves and we think, gosh, we're going to be successful in adopting this broad approach to ensuring people have the right to vote. And yet we see some discrepancies. Again, I would offer not based upon reasoned analysis, but rather upon the exigencies and almost the whims, if you will, of the day. Let's once again focus on ensuring that, yes, the voting in November is legitimate and that votes of Americans are counted. Isn't that what this is all about?
Well, not if Trump wants to win, Jim. I don't think Trump wants to count all the votes. He said himself, if we count all the votes, a Republican will never be elected again. Jim, you got a few more minutes for us?
I do.
Segment. Come back with us. Our fine guest, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santelle. He's a friend of ours. He's our election law and all other legal case experts. I hope that's not too broad for your resume, Jim. We're going to put you down. We're checking all the boxes. Come back. More with James Santelle.
I'm in the right tree, but making the wrong call.
Devil's Triangle.
Kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Supplying your political fix on the back roads from Sauk City to Beaver Dam on WTTN 1580 AM Devil Radio.
America has reached a tipping point. We're being torn apart at the seams, right when we need to be more united than ever as Americans. Joe Biden is the only candidate who can bring us together to get our country moving again.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. While I'll be a Democratic candidate, I will be an American president. That's the job of a president, to represent all of us, not just our base or our party.
Because only when we come together can we rebuild our economy the right way for working people. Biden's plan? No tax increases if you make under $400,000. Create 18 million new jobs. Higher wages. With ideas both parties can support.
This is not a partisan moment. This must be an American moment. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
And the pandemic. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. President Trump campaigning in Michigan complains the media's focus is on the pandemic.
It's COVID, COVID, COVID. You can't watch anything else. On November 4th, you won't be hearing so much about it. Okay? November 4th.
The virus is spiking across the country, including states Trump needs to win over Democrat Joe Biden. A Virginia state judge sides with Governor Ralph Northam, who wants a Robert E. Lee statue removed, but gives opponents time to appeal. People along the Gulf Coast packing up, heading to shelter ahead of yet another tropical storm. This one's named Zeta.
It's kind of unusual for 7 times. Normally, you might do it once in a year. It's been a rough year with the storm.
Forecasters expect the storm to regain hurricane strength and hit tomorrow anywhere from western Louisiana to the Alabama-Mississippi state line. I'm Tim McGuire.
T-Mobile for Business knows saving time and money is important for your business. That's why we're introducing Microsoft 365 on us, now included in our best business plans. With Office apps, Microsoft Teams, cloud storage, and more, Microsoft 365 on us gives you the tools you need to run your business. Stop by a T-Mobile store today. Qualifying plan required. Contactless to activate. 1 license per line, max 2 per account. Third-party terms apply. See T-Mobile.com for plan details.
Walgreens has always been there to help make your healthcare easier. From making sure you have the prescriptions you need to answering any questions you have about them. Now, the question is whether you have the right Medicare plan. And we're here to help make that easier too. Walgreens can save you money and peace of mind with copays as low as $0. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare today to see how. Walgreens. We make Medicare easy. $0 copay on Tier 1 generic drugs when enrolled in a plan with Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy.
For
Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Tuesday, October 27th. More than 200,000 people in Wisconsin have tested positive for COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. The state passed the marker Monday as the Department of Health Services reported 2,883 new cases and 10 deaths. The death toll now stands at 1,788. USPS is confident they can process all Milwaukee ballots by deadline. Nearly 1 week from Election Day, U.S. Postal Service and Milwaukee Election Commission officials discussed the steps they are taking to ensure all ballots are protected and delivered on time. Even though the deadline is 8 p.m. on November 3rd, USPS said their goal is to have all ballots delivered to the Commission by 1 p.m. on Election Day. Forecast of clear, chilly skies today, high of 40 degrees, low of 27 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Tuesday, 1 week till Election Day happy hour. It continues with our fine guest, James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. Jim, we're only keeping you around because Trump hasn't started yet in West Salem. No, I tease. You're much better company. I
am flattered.
Don't always trust your instincts on this topic, though, Jim. Bill Barr, we've talked about Bill Barr, and at first you were kind of soft on Bill Barr, and he's proven you wrong, sir. So, setting that stage with a little negative. Jim, let me ask you, Amy Coney Barrett, what is your thought process on this appointment to the court? I think that we're often surprised by Supreme Court justices, or at least the president that appoints them is often surprised that they're more liberal or more conservative than intended. Do you think these people, and I mean Coney Barrett in this specific case, Jim, do you think she is capable of setting aside her partisanship, or will she slide more into the Thomas Kavanaugh column, to your opinion?
I think the answer is time will tell, and that's not just a dodge from me this afternoon. Let's do some history on that. Again, we know precisely what you said, Mike, which is that our recent history is dotted and characterized by surprises. Dwight Eisenhower appointed Earl Warren and William Brennan, who ended up being some of the most liberal justices, great civil rights justices. Richard Nixon appoints Harry Blackmun, who wrote what, among other things? Roe versus Wade, right? Gerald Ford appoints John Paul Stevens, who becomes one of the most liberal justices. Ronald Reagan, Sandra Day O'Connor, and Anthony Kennedy, both of whom are not exactly a right-wing conservative justices. And yes, George H.W. Bush appoints David Souter, giving rise to the present mantra, no more suitors, meaning no more surprises. And so to the extent the question is, is Amy Coney Barrett going to be a suitor or not? We don't know. Certainly the history of the Supreme Court, even recently, has been some surprises. Don't forget, as we have just discussed in the past, in the recent past, there's a Supreme Court justice named Neil Gorsuch, who surprised many people this past summer with two major Supreme Court cases, one finding that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act does indeed protect folks based upon sexual orientation and gender identity. And that's a very significant case, and also finds that most of the state of Oklahoma, it turns out, is a reservation preserved by treaty for the Native American populations in this country. Those are not exactly conservative opinions by Neil Gorsuch. And so we'll have to wait and see. There are certainly some indications from her Seventh Circuit decisions in all sorts of areas, including guns, including immigration, that suggest that at least she is willing to wrestle with the tough issues. Would not be surprised if during the course of the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, if from time to time, Amy Coney Barrett, who plainly is aligned philosophically with that side of the court, from time to time would do what John Roberts has done, which is join the liberals in those cases where she feels it is important to do so. And I don't know, I would not necessarily put her in the same category of Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. My sense from her is a bit more willing to be in that great middle, but certainly on the right side of the middle, if you will.
Well, you gave Bill Barr the benefit of the doubt as well. We'll see, Jim. We'll see.
We'll see.
How much influence do you think Chief Justice Roberts has over the associate justices? And do you think he understands the perception of the politicization of the court, and you think he cares enough about his own reputation. This is the Roberts court. Roberts says, there aren't Obama nominees and Trump nominees. There are justices. Do you believe that, Jim?
It is the Roberts court, and I think that there were times, obviously, when John Roberts, as you well know, this is the man who found that Obamacare was based upon a tax and not the Commerce Clause, and basically saved Obamacare the first time it was around. It's being
don't get Dom started.
Right. John Roberts, just a few months ago, was the one who cast the deciding vote in a case coming out of Louisiana that again upheld effectively, implicitly, if not explicitly, Roe versus Wade, and said that because there is precedent in a previous Texas case, I'm not going to overrule this the decision today. And so John Roberts, very much aware of his place in history, very much aware of the fact that this is his court. And I think he will have an influence upon, perhaps not those who've been around for a long period of time, but I think there's something of a tradition. You see this in some of the literature of a chief justice sort of taking a new justice under wing, regardless of their political background or affiliation. And my own sense, once again, is that John Roberts, I don't want to say it will surprise us, but this is a man who I do think knows his place in history and recognizes that, as he said when it came to the abortion case, the reproductive rights case this past summer, the precedent means something. And the great arc, as we often say in America, has always been toward the expansion of rights and liberties that do not have an impact to the negative on other people, and that we do not go back. We don't pull things away. We don't rescind rights and privileges. That's not been our tradition. I think John Roberts gets that. He plainly now, if he is in the middle, he plainly will be in a 4 to 5 minority, if you will. But perhaps with some influence, we'll also be able to talk with a Neil Gorsuch again, and with an Amy Coney Barrett, and maybe even with a Brett Kavanaugh on some of these cases.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, friend of ours, joining us via the Zoom. Jim, it's been some time since I've had an opportunity to speak with you. We got all these Trump trials going on. I want to get some updates as you know them. The breaking news today, a U.S. district judge wrote that Trump did not qualify as a government employee under federal law, nor was he acting within the scope of his employment when he denied during interviews in 2019 that he had raped a journalist, E. Jean Carroll, at a Manhattan department store back in the 90s. Jim, are we going to be looking for some DNA samples next? What are your thoughts on that ruling, and where does this case go next?
Right. I think it's absolutely right. I think most of us who were either previously affiliated with the Department of Justice, my guess is an awful lot of civil attorneys inside the Department of Justice to this day looked at this initially. And again, speaking about Bill Barr, who supported this notion that we're going to bring this case, which is a state court case, by E. Jean Carroll. We brought it into federal court. We then attempted to substitute the United States of America for Donald Trump. And the reason why that is significant, of course, is under the Federal Tort Claims Act. It can then be dismissed because there's no defamation charge. So this was on its way to being dismissed. This is a huge blow to the president. This is a blow to the Attorney General, Bill Barr, who advocated for this, whose Department of Justice did in fact make this certification that, get this, Donald Trump, when he was basically defaming E. Jean Carroll, saying she's a liar, this never happened, that was something that was done in the course of his duties in furtherance of his responsibilities as the President of the United States of America, in the scope of his employment. That can't possibly be. So it's a right decision by this judge, Judge Kaplan, to basically say, nope, not at all gutsy. It's an thing to do. My sense now is it goes back to the state court, where again, the attorney for Ms. Kaplan, Ms. Carroll, whose name is Roberta Kaplan, will now pursue discovery on this issue. It goes back into state court. And again, a significant snub, if you will, to the Department of Justice and also to the president, who has just one more reason in this broad scope of cases out there to be concerned today, about continuing lawsuits against him.
Well, and at the end of the day, whether or not this ends up, bearing some fruit and justice given to Carroll, justice delayed is justice denied. We will not know anything about this before the election. But there are other cases I want to get to as well. The Cy Vance, the Manhattan DA, his case. Now, is this going before the Supreme Court? Again, this is the Donald Trump taxes issue. And if it goes before the Supreme Court, will the new justice rule on this?
Right. It very well could be headed up there again. There's great frustration, obviously, by the judges now, the district court judges looking at this now a second time. And you recall the Supreme Court previously said this past summer that no, Donald Trump, when it comes to this kind of thing, is subject to the same kinds of limitations and restrictions and prerogatives as the rest of us have. You can raise those basic objections to a subpoena, but there's nothing related to presidential immunity or authorities that precludes you from doing this. And so still being argued there. Arguably still going up. You saw great frustration by Cy Vance, the length of time this is taking, and also now frustration by the district court, the lower courts as well. Comes up to the Supreme Court again. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they even want to review this a second time and really play around in this area, because they haven't reestablished this notion that the law applies to everybody. A subpoena means what it says. And especially in the wake of these other cases like the E. Jean Carroll matter, maybe this one should stay at the trial court, and the president should in fact the custodians of his records should in fact be obliged to produce financial records, including tax returns. That is certainly one of them. We still, as you also know, have the other Supreme Court case that may in fact be mooted when the House Judiciary Committee is still looking for those redactions coming out of the Mueller report. Again, based upon their notion that they're still pursuing impeachment proceedings. Obviously, if Donald Trump is not reelected, that's unlikely. It undermines that theory, and maybe the case goes away, but other things happen. But there's an awful lot of liability for this president out there, even if he remains in the office, plainly as we've said before. Federal prohibitions against his indictment charging, but not precluding state prosecution.
Well, I guess in that regard, the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, finally got one of the Trump boys to open up about, whether or not their investigation that they engaged in insurance fraud or bank fraud. Jim, where do we stand on that particular case?
Sure. So this is Eric Trump, as you may recall, saying, well, wait a minute, I don't want to testify until after the election again. They're talking about distinctions that don't make a difference. They're simply pulling things out of the air and saying, well, this is the reason why. Doesn't make any sense. So plainly going ahead with that. And again, Letitia James doing a lot of things these days when it comes to her enforcement authorities as the Attorney General. We know she is also seeking the dissolution of the NRA in the same way that she sought and accomplished the dissolution, if you will, of the Trump Foundation there as well. Yeah. Looking at these same kinds of things. She's got a civil ambit, but she's also has got the obligation to make criminal referrals when she sees them. Lots and lots of arenas there in New York itself, both criminal and civil, that are being pursued with respect to this president, his past and his present involvement with finances locally, nationally, and probably internationally as well.
Jim, called for speculation, counselor, but Donald Trump in Wisconsin, West Salem, going off on the stage, perhaps at a super spreader COVID event. And some of this is predictable, Jim. We know it's bad policy for the president to hold these rallies. And despite the fact he's having people sign their lives away, signing waivers at the door, Jim, could there possibly be litigation against Trump, the man or the president or the campaign after the fact? This seems very negligent. These acts could predictably cause harm or death. Jim, there's a legal standard there. Don't they have something this man could eventually be charged with, theoretically?
I think there is. And again, it's a civil matter, right? And you hit on all the right words, Professor. You talked about the fact that this is a tort. It's a wrong. If you know about the facts, if you know that you've got a duty of care when you welcome people into the Devil's Advocates radio station, when you welcome somebody into your home, if you know that by doing that, you are purposely exposing them, knowingly exposing them to some risk of harm, you're undermining that duty of care that you have to them. And if in fact you do suffer some harm, whether you become sick, you become injured, you have caused a tort. And I basically kind of outline in a very generic way the basics for some litigation there. We now know more and more and more with each passing day that when people get together in these large crowds, unmasked, again, especially indoors, but even outdoors, when they're in close contact with each other for long periods of time, more and more the expertise would support that kind of a tort litigation theory. And I think there are an awful lot of lawyers out there who would not have to go too far down the road to say, this is the kind of tort litigation my client, who would otherwise have been exposed to this, who otherwise stayed at home for 6 months, went to one of these and was exposed and suffered some significant harm. That's the basis for tort litigation, maybe for hundreds and thousands of people. I think there's a there. And again, it underscores the notion that the law responds to the nature of risk that is out there.
Well, Dom, that's why we should have gone to the Trump rally. We would have had someone to sue. Thank you so much, former U.S. Attorney, our friend James Santelle. More Devils, one last segment left.
Thanks, Jim.
Nowadays, these partisan feelings are so strong that people have lost any sense of justice. Well, history is written by the winners, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
The winners. Winners get to do what they want. I'm Congressman Mark Pocan. You sent me to Washington to be a strong voice for Wisconsin's families, and that responsibility has never been more important. Like many of you, I've witnessed COVID-19's impact on our families. It's why I worked alongside my colleagues to pass the HEROES Act, a vote to keep families fed and safe in their house, a vote to protect small businesses, a vote to provide funding for COVID testing, contact tracing, and protecting our frontline workers. On November 3rd, I'm asking you to send me back to continue this work. I won't be satisfied until real action is taken, and I'll help bring Democrats and Republicans together to do what's right. Please make a plan to vote safely on November 3rd and help others do the same. I'm Mark Pocan. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives, and I approve this message. Paid for by Mark Pocan for Congress, Sandy Pope Treasurer.
Hola, Wisconsin. Voces de la Frontera Action has spent decades organizing to advance racial and immigrant justice, workers' rights, and education for all. Many of you have joined our historic Day Without Latinx and Immigrants mass strikes to beat back corporate policies that try to divide our communities and separate families. As a battleground state in 2020, your vote matters. We must unite to vote out Trump and his far-right administration that promote racism and violence while hoarding the wealth for the rich. The pandemic has heightened the urgency for access to healthcare, investment, and COVID-19 protections for workers, small business owners, and schools. That is why we must vote for Joe Biden. Join Voces de la Frontera Action by visiting vdlfa.org or calling 414-643-1620. And don't forget, early voting starts October 20th. Onwards to victory. Sí se puede.
Paid for by Voces de la Frontera Action, independent of any candidate or candidate committee. With better reception than their tinfoil hats, why listen to any other station? 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Madison's home for Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, pick up the phone. It's toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I want to thank our most recent guest, the fine one, a friend of ours, James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney, going to play a big part in our election night coverage. Don't forget, tune in when the polls close at 8. The Devils go live, and we'll do it live until Joe Biden is the next president. And I have not prepared myself mentally for any other outcome that night. So I'm hoping for a blue wave, Dom. A big crashing tsunami.
I am hopeful as well, but, hope doesn't make things happen. People got to get out. People got to be motivated. People got to vote. People got to act. You can't just hope it away. You got to make him go away by voting him away.
844-967-2789. Pizza the Box. Welcome back, Pizza. What do you got for us?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, man, you got to act. Anyway, I agree with Jim in that last part of the segment is, the Republicans, I've been saying, for the last couple of days, it's like a homicide, man. I mean, you're actually causing somebody to die by doing this stuff that you're, blocking the governor from keeping people safe. It's pretty sad, but I can't say it on Facebook anymore. Yeah, I got another 30 days.
What'd you do?
30 days in the hole.
Well, we know you can't say white trash because that's what I got last time. This time I said Trump-tarded. And I guess, I said it several times before it finally got flagged, so I don't know. But anyway, I guess I'm going to have to get a podcast since I'm going to be silenced by Zuckerberg. What do
It's
you think of that?
censorship, man. It's censorship.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I don't
think
actually
that
believe that,
person
Mike.
is
I'm
kinda-
actually giving you a hard time right now.
No, sometimes I do think that it's political that they tag people like me, but I needed 30 days anyway. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all this stuff. I mean, I'm not like, putting my head in the sand or anything, but it's nice to get a break like that. Except I can't post pictures of my grandkids, so my son will have to do it.
7 days, Mike. 7 days. What are your expectations, man? I mean, read the tea leaves for us. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not going to be, my shelves are going to have plenty of food and toilet paper just in case all kinds of hell breaks loose, because I don't really know. I just know that it's not going to be like any other election I've seen, man. This is going to be crazy. And I'm hoping that there's enough people like me that have easy access to voting and have always been comfortable, whether there's a pandemic or not, by following the rules and voting in a safe place like I have. I'm going to try and offset the rush of the, Trump cards that'll be out there. Ha ha. I could say that on your show.
Oh, sorry, Michael. Didn't mean to cut you short, but we got a few more callers. Want to get to them at 844-967-2789. Tell you what, Pizza Box just tuned in to Devil Radio 92.7. And Dom and Croup will stay on the air until it's safe to come out of your bunker. We'll let you know. It's safe. Joe Biden won. I hope. 844.
You're committing to something that we really can't guarantee, Michael.
Well, if it doesn't happen, it's Dom's fault. 844-967-2789. LA Tom, how are you, sir?
Hey, Tom.
I'm doing great, guys. We the people are the government. We must never forget that. And we are the ones that are going to make the difference in voting. And make sure you get your votes in early. You got plenty of time right now. Take it. Don't mail it in. I guess at this point in Wisconsin, take it to
the election
voting,
clerk. Stop directly at the office.
Yeah, the election clerk would be a good idea, yeah. Except for Kathy Nicholson. And then also, I get a little tired of, maybe they're looking at the glass is half full instead empty, but this stuff with George War Criminal Bush and his appointees like John Roberts. John Roberts is the reason why we have the Voting Rights Act gone. So let's not be giving this guy any too much leeway or credit for being, more in the middle or more whatever, because I don't fall for that. I mean, they are a corrupt court, and we need to rebalance the court when we get back in power.
Well, Tom, do you think it's a legitimate court? Do you question the legitimacy of the U.S. Supreme Court?
No, because these presidents that appointed these people on the court never won the popular vote in the first place. It was electoral college. There was too much. You look at the exit polls, Hillary Clinton won in the exit polls versus the real polls. I think the last 5 elections, like I've said before, since Kloppenburg in Wisconsin have been stolen. I think that it's pretty shameful when you see the GOP judiciary put on Twitter. They put Amy, I call her COVID Barrett, was put in on the court, and then they put happy birthday Hillary Clinton. That's pretty crass, if you ask me. They did it on Hillary's birthday just to rub it into her more for some reason. So I think they're disgusting. I think they're not, it's not pragmatism. It's not, justice being blind. It's all about the Federalist Society and putting in who it is that they want.
Well, and your liberal tears, Tom. That's what drives them.
Because you're
liberal
bastard
tears.
people.
Absolutely.
Take care, Tom.
Yep.
Appreciate you listening today.
Thanks, buddy. You too, man.
Liberal tears, man. The Republicans or the Trump publicans, they're running out of days, Dom. Just 7 days to troll. And then it's going to be a very sad night. And I'm not sure at all how they're going to react. So many of them have been deluded into this false reality, this alternative reality. And if Donald Trump gets his ass handed to him, and, knock on wood, that's going to happen. From my lips to God's ears, Dom, I know you have no faith, but what will the Republicans, what will the Trump publicans, the Trump pansies, what are they going to do when he loses? I mean, it better be a big Joe Biden.
Like I said, they're still going to be there. We're still going to have to contend with them. They're not going away. And now they've been emboldened. And certainly Donald Trump will not go away quietly. And anything that happens, if he gets defeated, I truly believe Donald Trump will sit there and say, it was stolen from me. He's going to rile up his base. He's going to rile up his crowd. And that's what he's doing. Crudy, real quick, Trump's administration's testing czar said Tuesday that the country's increase in coronavirus cases is not just because of more testing, but also a surge in the disease across the country.
Don't tell Trump.
Don't tell Trump.
He's at a super spreader event right now. Thank you to our fine guests. They included candidate for the 5th CD, Tom Palzowitz, and James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. Friends both, thank you all for listening. The Earl Ingram Show next. And then stick around for Busted Pencils, educators talking education.
The number of the day, I say simply heaven. The number of the day is 7.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
So thank you.
I remember when I went with my parents to vote. They put on their I voted sticker with pride. They knew they were doing something